Hello and welcome to the Music Relish Podcast. I'm wonderful, lovely Liberace, and I'm here with some wonderful boys by the name of Perry, Mark, and Lou. Isn't Perry just wonderful? Isn't Mark just wonderful? And isn't Lou really wonderful? Wonderful. We're going to talk about a lot of things about music. We're going to talk about fashion and just lovely thing.
Good evening, afternoon, or morning, and welcome to Music Relish Podcast, episode number 29. 29 in a series of music discussion podcasts with your hosts, Lou, Mark, and Perry. Good evening, gentlemen.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, and welcome back. It's been a long time.
I'd like to thank Liberace for that wonderful intro.
Wonderful intro.
Wonderful.
So,
Welcome back.
Yes, we were on hiatus for a little while, weren't we?
Well-deserved hiatus.
Well-deserved hiatus,
Well-deserved,
yeah.
yep.
Mm-hmm. It's a busy, crazy world in life.
And
so have we expanded our horizons in the time off, any of us?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm doing my playing on Sunday mornings, doing the good work, all that kind of stuff. And
yep. Wrote a couple of songs, a couple of new songs.
Nice.
We'll get to those in the near future, right?
Isn't there going to be a music relish radio show, or we're going to do something?
Yeah, there is. Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
We're changing things up a little bit.
And Lou, I want to say I didn't write a song like Perry, but I learned how to string my guitar properly after 30 years.
Oh.
And thanks to you, Lou, I took the deep dive and got the Blue Oyster Cult albums collection, and I have been listening to nothing but Blue Oyster Cult.
Have you really?
Wow.
That's the Columbia
years, and I still say the first album's my favorite.
That is a box set, right?
Box set.
Yeah.
Box set.
Now, the first album was on our list of excellent debut records by bands.
Yeah,
Yes.
we discussed that some shows back. Yep.
Yep. It was a long list, but yeah.
1972, I believe, right?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Produced by Sandy Pearlman, who produced the Clash's second record.
Who produced Give 'Em Enough Rope by
Give
The
'Em Enough
Clash.
Rope,
Yeah.
Yep. Springtime is sprung here.
Well, all I can say is that you convinced someone to go out and buy the whole box album. You really made a fan.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, thanks, man.
Well, Lou's an influencer. He influenced you to buy that.
Influencer.
Yep.
We're all influencers.
Some subliminal messages.
And in fact, we're going to create some content for tonight, right, Lou? What do we have in store?
You got content creators, yes.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about a recent story in the news. You know, a lot of the old rock and roll, classic rock guys are making their transition. Yeah, they're leaving. And so the latest one was Jim Gordon, the legendary drummer, Jim Gordon.
Whoa.
Yes. For those who don't know who Jim Gordon is, he's on a lot of songs that you've heard. Just amazing session guy. He did a lot of touring. He did a lot of live work with a lot of people.
Yeah.
A very creative drummer. So he was born July 14th, 1945. He died this March 13th, 2023, at the age of 77. And we'll get to that.
And he had a really cool name, right? What was his real name?
His real name was James Beck Gordon.
What a cool name, man.
Yeah. So Beck was his mother's maiden name.
Really?
Yeah, so Osa Marie Beck. He was a young drummer and very, very good. So he started playing professionally in 1963 at the age of 17. He did a tour with the Everly Brothers as a teenager. Became a protege of the legendary Wrecking Crew drummer, session guy extraordinaire Hal Blaine.
Wow.
We've talked about him so much. The Wrecking Crew, which we'll talk about the Wrecking Crew.
We're going to do a Wrecking Crew episode, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. Yeah. So I could say the man had a star-crossed career, a lot of sessions, a lot of touring. He would do east to west coast transport trafficking. He'd do a session in L.A. in the morning, fly to New York, do an evening session, and whatever, and come back to West Coast and play like a gig in like Las Vegas at the Sands.
Incredible.
So I'll give you a list of albums and artists that he's played on. What's familiar, what we all know here. Delaney, Bonnie, and Friends, right? I think that was 1969. The thing he's most well known for is Layla and Assorted Love Songs, the Derek and the Dominoes record. He's known as the co-writer of Layla, the instrumental passage in the middle of the song and the ride out. He played on Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys, and that's about as good as it gets.
Wow.
And this I didn't know until recently. Because Gene Clark is an idol of mine, and He played with Gene Clark with the Gosden Brothers, which I think that record came out before the Fantastic Expedition of Dillard and Clark.
Yeah.
It's a great record.
Oh, yeah.
He's the drummer on the notorious Byrds Brothers. All Things Must Pass by George Harrison. Joe Cocker, Mad Dogs and Englishmen, the tour and the album.
Ooh.
With equally legendary Jim Keltner. He's the drummer on the Low Spark of High Heeled Boys by Traffic. He's the drummer on Nilsson Schmilsson by Harry Nilsson. So he's a drummer on Into the Fire with that great drum solo.
That's Jim Gordon playing drums on that song.
That's Jim Gordon. He was in Frank Zappa's Grand Wazoo Band, where he earned the nickname of Skippy by Zappa because of his youthful appearance. Jim Gordon was a very big, strapping guy, which we'll play into our story later too. He's the drummer on Steely Dan record Pretzel Logic. So Ricky, Don't Lose That Number. That's pretty iconic drumming in its own right. It's just amazing.
I have very few. Excuse me. I have very few favorite Steely Dan songs. That's one of my and Jim Gordon is the drummer on Ricky Don't Lose That. Oh man.
And if there's a Dan song where the drums are important, that's one of them.
Yeah, and it's such a creative part in the little fill he does leading into the drum solo.
Yeah.
It's just it's so clever.
I noticed these little nuances. I love the nuance. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And just to the point as to how great he is he played on that whole album Pretzel Logic with the exception of one song. And that song's played by Jeff Beccaro, Night by Night, but he played on the whole rest of the album.
Wow.
Right. Yeah.
Which I just thought of Jim Gordon as the guy in Layla as a rock drummer. And Lou, you brought out to me that he's so much more than just a rock drummer.
Yeah. He had his own bands too. In the late '60s too. He had an album called it was like Jimmy Gordon's Poppin' Jazz thing or something. I have it written down. We'll get later, but he had his own little combo. I guess he had a record deal. Yeah, no, he was that kind of guy. I mean, he had his own style, a very earthy sound. On the Derek and the Dominoes record, my favorite drumming on it is their version of Hendrix's Little Wing. The drumming on that in particular, those fills are just so on time. I don't even the drumming on Layla as well. I mean, you listen to the way Tom Dowd recorded it. Those drums aren't any louder than anything else. That record is so balanced, but yeah, amazing guy, an amazing feel. He also played in the Souther Hillman Furay band. That was J.D. Souther, Chris Hillman of the Byrds, and Richie Furay of Poco. So other artists, he played with Andy Williams, he played with Glenn Campbell, Diamonds and Rust by Joan Baez, the Careless record by Stephen Bishop. So he's a drummer on and On.
Wow. Wow.
Yep. Let's see. He's the drummer on the Jackson Browne's The Pretender record, Crosby, Stills, Nash, the CSN record, Beautiful Noise by Neil Diamond, which I believe was produced by Robbie Robertson. Gordon Lightfoot, the Sundown record, so he's the drummer on Sundown and
that's
Carefree
Jim Gordon
Highway.
Again on I'm a Gordon Lightfoot fan.
I know you are.
Yeah.
And the drumming on Sundown, it's really good. The sound of his drums, I marvel at the sound of his kits.
You're right.
So,
like you said
so
before,
warm.
earthy too. Yeah.
Yep. He worked with Randy Newman. He played on the album Song Cycle by Van Dyke Parks, the legendary lyricist. Yoko Ono did an album called Fly. He's the drummer on that. I'm not sure when or where that is. He played with Minnie Riperton. Johnny Rivers, Tom Waits. He's the drummer on John Travolta's the record he made when Welcome Back Kotter hit. So I'm not sure what the single was from the John Travolta record.
It was a gig.
Yep. His record was called Hog Fat, and it was Jimmy Gordon and his Jazz and Pops band that came out in 1969. That would be interesting to hear. I'm not sure. There's not much about his musical background. It said he started playing drums fairly young, but he was good enough where 16 or 17 he was touring. So some notable songs he played on. The song "Classical Gas" by Mason.
Yeah.
He's the drummer on that.
Wow.
Into the Fire. I mentioned that Harry Nilsson song. He's the drummer on Helen Reddy's "I Am Woman." Hear me roll.
Yeah. Talk about session work.
Right. We mentioned Ricky, Don't Lose That Number.
Yep.
On and on. Did you guys ever hear of a guitar player named Phil Keaggy or a band called Glass Harp? You've heard of him, Mark?
Yes.
Do you know anything about him?
I used to listen to his solo stuff, and I've
heard great things about him as good.
Yeah.
Okay. Ted Nugent said if enough people heard him, his guitar would save the world. That's the quote I heard. I was listening to one of the XM channels, and some song, maybe it was a Glass Harp song, but the DJ was a guest. He mentioned, he goes, I have to mention Phil Keaggy. So his name just happened to pop up in the Jim Gordon
He's a very talented
Wormhole,
very talented guitar player.
Okay, a lot of Christian music. Most of his career,
Yes.
Okay,
yeah. He was there was a point in the '90s where Christian music attempted to be pop. He was putting out very quality Christian pop music. We did some of his stuff at CPI for a record.
I like Dan
label.
Peake too.
Yeah,
oh, you did. You did. Okay.
Even when he would do a popish album, and I don't want to mean pop music, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
he was still doing incredible guitar playing, just like like this guy's great, you know.
Yeah,
very good. Yeah,
interesting.
I don't know what he's doing now though. So
I think he's still alive, but well, so Jim Gordon played on a song of his called, I think it's called "Love Broke Through." But yeah, so once I kind of dove down that hole, it was kind of interesting. Having heard it secondhand. So here's two favorites of mine. Jim Gordon is also the drummer on the Seals and Crofts songs "Summer Breeze" and "Diamond Girl." I love the drumming on Diamond Girl.
Wow.
Yeah. He does a backward drum fill before the main.
And the guitar player was Larry.
Wait, was Larry on Seals and Crofts? I have no idea.
Yeah.
Like Larry Carlton, maybe?
Session guy.
He was a session guy, Larry Carlton.
So how about this? He's a drummer on Dear Mr. Fantasy by Traffic.
Wow.
Which is weird because Jim Capaldi is a very good drummer, was a very good drummer. And he was the drummer and the unknown vocalist of Traffic is Jim Capaldi.
He could have turned up in the studio and they said, Jimmy, you don't want to play drums on this track or anything.
Or the
like
producer,
that, right?
or the producer's like, play on this. All right. He's the drummer on Give Peace a Chance by John Lennon. Rock the Boat by the Hughes Corporation. That's Jim Gordon.
Wow.
And a disco song.
Wow.
That's like the early disco, isn't it?
Yep. He's the drummer on Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee Carly Simon's "You're So Vain." And I mentioned the two Gordon Lightfoot songs, though, amongst others, though, "Carefree Highway" and "Sundown." I saw where he was credited as the drummer on some Alice Cooper songs. I never heard anything. I didn't. I mean, Mom 18, "School's Out," and some other one.
It could be Bob Ezrin, was obsessed with drums. Bob Ezrin.
Right, so this might be something where he was uncredited. But "School's Out," I don't know. Anyway, who knows? But this was something that kind of blew my mind because I didn't know it. He is the drummer on the song "Different Drum" by the Stone Ponies.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Linda. And you know who played guitar on it? Equally blown away.
I know who wrote it.
Was that Mike Nesmith?
I think it was Michael Nesmith, right?
Mike Nesmith.
Yeah.
The guitar player is future Eagle Bernie Leadon.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't know that until today. So that was like 1964. No, it was no 67.
I didn't know. That was mid 60s.
It was early. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so, wow.
65 or 6, I would think.
Okay. Yeah. So that was young Jim Gordon.
Now he was a touring. I mean, he toured all over with Delaney and Bonnie and Friends, and he toured the world or all over Europe with Derek and the Dominoes.
Right. I'm sure he did a lot of stuff with the Everleys.
I read that story. Go ahead, Lou. Sorry.
Well, what story?
I read that story about where they were on a train going to do a show, and Gordon was pissing off Eric Clapton. So Clapton took his bag, his luggage, and tossed it out the window in a moving train. And Bobby Whitlock said he had all these brand new silk shirts in there. And they said, Bobby Whitlock said these people on the sun, they're going to get all new silk shirts, brand new silk shirts.
Don't piss off EC.
And then Clapton went right after he tossed it out the window. He went right back to reading his comic book.
Wow.
Beano.
Now that if he knew then, yeah. Well, so as far as Jim Gordon, his way, he had a certain way with his drums. He really could move a band. He's been described as a locomotive. I mean, the guy could just, he like I said, he was a big guy. He had like energy, stamina. So all these high energy rock and rollers that Mad Dogs and the Englishman tour, apparently that took a toll on a lot of people. And we've mentioned before, I don't know the name of it, but there's a documentary or at least a book about that tour where there was a lot of coercion going on. A lot of people wanted to quit that tour and were threatened to not. The money behind it was probably very dicey.
Well, I saw a picture. Go ahead. Sorry, Lou.
No, please.
I saw a picture of all those people that were involved in that Mad Dogs and Englishmen tour.
Oh.
And they were all there. It was one of those big group pictures.
Was Robert Stigwood one of them?
He was probably there. Yeah, so. It was all, some were kneeled down, some were, of course he was in the back. He was in the back and to the left. That's where Jim Gordon was. And anyway, everybody is happy as can be in this photograph, and he's standing there stoically with crazy eyes.
Really, yeah.
I mean, if you zoom in on him in that picture, he's got crazy eyes.
I did that and looking things up because our friend Jim Bogart mentioned that to me one time. He goes, look at the Derek and the Dominos, the Layla record. He had this intense look in his eyes.
Yeah.
So the reason we're getting to this is that he had issues. There's behind the scenes stories. They said he never really fit in that description of the wild late 60s rock and roller. He was kind of like an all-American surfer California guy, but a lot of drugs on that Joe Cocker tour. And what it is that Jim Gordon was an undiagnosed schizophrenic. So what happens during the course of the 70s, all that excessive lifestyle, about 1981, he was no longer doing sessions because at that point he was so erratic that he was intimidating people in the studio. Like I said, a big dude, a big muscular dude, you know?
Yeah.
And he would, bass players in particular, I guess he would accuse him of messing with his time. So by the early 80s, his sessions had dried up, but his body of work leading up to that is just amazing. I read in Modern Drummer magazine, like 1982 or early 1983, it was he was the featured interview article. So I read it. The introduction that the interviewer wrote before it was very strange, basically saying that to get to interview with Jim Gordon, he had to go through like channels. There was a lot of back and forth, a lot of things. And he basically said, he goes, I felt I had to convince Jim Gordon that is either like a good witch or a bad witch. Like,
whoa,
so at that point, whatever the workings of Gordon's mind at that point, because, excessive drinking, excessive drug taking.
Yeah.
So by that point, he was living a pretty bad, desperate lifestyle. He was
hearing voices in his head, correct?
No, it was a voice.
A voice?
Voice.
A voice, yeah.
That's important, yeah.
Yeah. And so at that point, he was misdiagnosed as well. And that's unfortunate.
Couldn't get the right medication.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. He was, it looks like he went for help. And he was misdiagnosed basically for extensive alcohol abuse. And what it was schizophrenia. It was they're all mental health issues in some way.
Was this taking place in California? Like
California.
In LA, right?
I guess the LA area. Yeah. So anyway, on the night of, I think it's June 3rd, 1983, a voice told him to kill his mother, and that's what he did. So he went to her house.
Whoa.
So he hit her with a hammer, stabbed her with a knife, and that was it. He was caught like the next day. I don't think he even tried to resist. His thing, what he said was, I think he said at that point it was his mother's voice that told him to do it. But his mother's name was Osa Marie Beck Gordon. So the Beck came from his mother's maiden name. So sadly, he was diagnosed. He was a schizophrenic. And badly. There was changes in the insanity defense law in California where it didn't help him in a sense. So he was sentenced 16 years to life. Anytime he was up for parole, he never got it.
But he was in a prison hospital. He wasn't in a cell, right?
California Medical Facility in Vacaville, California. That's where he died. Yeah, so they said when he's not taking his medication, he's a danger. And he was incarcerated for 40 years.
Wow.
The last 40 years of his life.
And he died a few weeks ago, right?
Yeah, on March 13th. A sad story. It's another tragic rock and roll story, but I wonder at what point did he knew, there's in the event of his passing, there were people who have come out and said, Rita Coolidge even wrote a story or gave an interview saying at that Mad Dogs and Englishmen tour, he came up there very gently one time and said, can I talk to you outside? He went out in the hallway and she said he hit her so hard. She went up off the air into a wall and just knocked her out completely.
Wow.
And she said at that point, she goes, I looked in his eyes. And I knew he was not dealing with a full deck.
Yeah.
So, like you said, if you look at the Gordon Lightfoot record, it's always in someone's eyes, But like he didn't get help earlier. Or did he think he needed it?
Right.
Whatever those internals are, you don't know. But
aside from all that, everything you stated earlier, like the body of work is that will live on. What a drummer this guy was, right?
Yeah. Oh, incredible. A big influence on me as a drummer. Growing up in that era too, how could you not? And, not just that, like, some of those songs that we found that he played on, the Hughes Corporation.
Yeah. Very interesting. Yep.
Yeah. So, but yeah, James Beck Gordon, rest in peace. And he has a daughter, Amy, that I'm sure, as his sole heir. I don't think he had any wives at that point. In prison in California, you can do that.
And because there's still royalties to be had.
Oh yeah,
so
yeah. He was getting money. He's getting money for Layla. Yeah.
Yep.
That's right, because the second half was him. Did he play piano on the that's him playing it on the studio version, right?
I heard that, but then now, the thing about that is interesting. Bobby Whitlock was a little contentious about it, saying he thought that might have been more Rita Coolidge's part. I don't know if she's credited on the song, but there were her and Gordon were in a relationship at that time. So, but I don't know.
What I wanted to, he's credited as piano. So he's actually physically playing the piano.
This is what I heard from Bobby Whitlock. The song was written by Jim Gordon and Eric Clapton. That's the writing credits on that.
Okay.
So that's a big deal for Jim Gordon's family. But Jim Gordon played the piano. Then Bobby Whitlock came in maybe a week or so later and kind of ghosted around it to help fill it out a little more. So there are two. Bobby Whitlock is also playing piano on there, but mainly it's Jim Gordon. Yeah.
Okay.
I think when you first hear it, like when it first cuts in, it's just the piano. Maybe that's Jim Gordon. When the band kicks in, it becomes very loud. Maybe his pedestrian piano playing. Yeah, it needed some. Yeah. He also had organ on it too, and
interestingly, that was done like a month after they were finished recording. Yeah. Tom Dowd kind of had to clip that together. Remember, they were like.
Really?
Like different speeds or something. And he had to.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But that was about a month afterwards that they finished that part with the piano, with the ending or the coda of the song. Yep.
If you listen closely, when the piano comes in, it sounds like it's slightly off pitch, not 440. It does sound just a teeny bit off.
But I
attribute it up. It's kind of it was a rough recording, that whole album. So it does.
Yeah. You attribute it to who? To what?
No, I said maybe the rough recording situations, but you said Tom Dowd had to, maybe because he had to speed something up or slow something down. So Tom Dowd's the reason that song came out so good.
Yeah, that absolutely is the reason. Yeah.
It's a very live sounding recording. I don't know the nuts and bolts of how they recorded it, but it sounds like it was a lot of live.
It was done live. Yeah. Except for any overdubs, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
What a great little segment, man. Jim Gordon.
Jim Gordon.
Yeah.
All my drum heroes are.
Yeah, well, we still have Jim Keltner, right?
Jim Keltner. He's worthy of a little segment profile as well.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
It's like all those session guitar players we talked about. Jesse A. Davis.
Oh, man, yeah.
Every time I hear Doctor My Eyes, because I've been hearing that a few times lately, I pay extra attention because, you hear the song for 50 years. Yeah, it's a great guitar solo, but I'm like, that was a freaking one-off,
Yeah.
And you can tell he's just playing some little notes here and there toward the end of it. Like, bam, bam,
I've heard Jackson talk about that, and Leland Sklar, of course, played bass on it. So he was saying that he was amazed that we've had this discussion in the past, I think, where Jackson Brown, Jesse Ed Davis comes to the studio. Jackson Brown plays a song from the, on the board by the tape machine. He's like, nah, I don't know if I could do anything on that one, but he goes, well, I've got another one, Doctor My Eyes. He listens to it once and lays it down. Listen to the playback once and then laid it down. Lee Sklar said he was amazed at that, and Jackson Brown as well.
And was he leery of it or thinking like, I could do it better. Let me do it again.
He did. Yeah. He did. He said, I can do it better. And Jackson's like, you don't understand. This is great. You don't understand, Jesse. Yeah. This is great.
No, that's from the Jackson Brown's first record, I think.
Yes. Dr. My Eyes is the first thing I've ever heard by Jackson Brown.
The one with the lighter on the cover or whatever. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, you know what? Speaking of Jackson Brown, we lost another unsung guitar player in the time since we were on.
Uh-oh. Who?
David Lindley.
Whoa, David Lindley. Talk about talent to play anything with strings on it, right?
I consider David Lindley, I don't know much about him, but I consider him, to my ears, as the most recognizable slide player, even above Duane Allman. When you hear those Jackson Brown songs, that's Dave Lindley.
Yep. As distinctive as George Harrison was.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yep.
A different sound. David Lindley sounds almost Hawaiian.
Good point.
Very, very much so. Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of dove into some of his solo stuff, and I wish I had gotten into it sooner. It's very enjoyable, very, very smooth. Not a virtuoso like Duane Allman. Duane was just sick.
Well, in certain circles, he's the man. Yeah.
Yeah, but very thin sound, which was perfect for what he did.
Hmm.
So, of course, mine is Running on Empty. That's just the song I know him from. When I was 10 years old, I heard that slide guitar.
Yep.
So it gives you a feeling, you know.
But I find it interesting, I find it interesting that Lou had said it sounds Hawaiian because they played a lot of lap steel. And those were like almost Hawaiian-style instruments in the beginning when they were making them.
What's that? Hawaiian noises. He's playing.
On your MTV.
Don Ho Hum.
Don Ho. And also, well, Jackson Brown, I mean, a lot of the early stuff too. Redneck Friend, is that Sneaky Pete?
No, that was
that might be David. That might be Lindley. He's on that record. I mean,
he's on the record, absolutely.
He was very. He's been so essential to the Jackson Brown sound, and his band El Rayo X.
Yeah,
very very eccentric though. You know, a lot of these guys, their solo material is, you know, you'll hear it on the college stations.
Yeah,
but
like those are the things like, you know, hey man, you know, same thing like Jesse Ed Davis too. He put a couple of records out. David Lindley puts a few records out. Maybe they only sell, you know, they don't sell too much, but they're great records, you know.
Yeah, and they have a following. Well, like a Daniel Lanois record or Alejandro Escovedo.
Yeah, yep.
You know, they're known as guitar players. They're known more as guitar players than as singers, but they are singer songwriters. I think. I think of more as guitar players. David Lindley, he did some weird covers where you're like, that's pretty odd. It's pretty oddball, you know. It's in a niche taste as far as music goes. You know?
But super talent, David Lindley. Wow.
Yeah.
Like you said, anything with strings on it.
Yeah. Yep.
By a ukulele, he'll rip a ukulele up in a mandolin.
Well, he played on Sentimental Hygiene by Warren Zevon, and in one song it says, Bode Saz was David Lindley played the Bode Saz, whatever that may be.
Like an SAAZ or something, yeah.
Yeah.
Like an oud. He played the oud.
What'd you call me?
It had strings on it. Yep.
An oud.
Yeah, it's just another unsung hero, like you said. These guys made these albums. You know, Jackson Brown, incredibly talented, but he benefited from having Jesse Ed Davis play a classic song.
Yeah.
And slide, you know,
These are the people that make people enjoy their music, and they just take it, you know.
Yeah.
No one who thinks of, you know, who played the slide on that, you know, like it's part of the overall sound. But those are the people like they make it happen.
They leave imprints, big imprints, right?
Oh, yeah.
People like that,
And they have some of the best careers too. If you know, I've even reading about some of the, you know, the Wrecking Crew people, like all the stuff they got to do, and was it the guy we were talking about before from Glass Harp? What was his name? Phil Keaggy.
Yeah.
He did all these like events. He's did all these things playing all these different people, but no one knows who the hell he is. You know,
I've never heard of him.
No, but I mean, the guy probably it sounds like had a great, you know, it was a great gig. I mean, he didn't have to, you know, someone not knowing who you are can be a good thing. You know, depending on the type of person you are. You know, you don't want to be seen all the time, but that anonymity that these session guys have, but the fact that, you know, they're so good that they get a lot of work and they're always in demand.
Yeah. Exactly. Phil Keaggy, when I was growing up and I was young, I wanted to hear as much different guitar playing as possible. So two people that I seeked out was Phil Keaggy and John Fahey. He was another one. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
That name I've heard,
He's just purely acoustic, a lot of alternate tunings and stuff. But those two just in my brain, I remember being like 13, 14 years old, going to the library, seeing if they had their albums. Phil Keaggy was always in Guitar World magazine, too. He was in the mainstream press. Yeah.
Was related to Kelly Keaggy from Night Ranger?
It's a good point. I don't know. You never know.
I think Phil Keaggy's English, isn't it? No?
How many Keaggys could there be in this country? Come on.
How many Mark Smiths can there be in the phone book, right?
Just one.
Hey, you know what? I'm surprised I still have an identity. I'm not giving my middle initial on the air.
Yeah, we don't know it, do we?
No. You'll never know.
Do you know that
it's X? It's like Xavier, isn't it?
That sounds good.
Do you know that? Excuse me. Do you know that Phil Spector only had like 5 #1 hits?
Yeah,
that surprises me.
I mean, he's probably had, you know, however many top 10 hits, top 40 hits, but he only had like 5 #1 hits.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the first one was that one. He was in that group, the Teddy Bears.
Yep.
And what was that song?
To know.
Yes.
He was in the group?
Yes.
He was one of the singers. Yeah, right.
He was just a singer. Did he play guitar?
I played guitar.
He played guitar. So they weren't just a vocal group. They were.
That's all I know. I know he's a guitar player and a songwriter. The Beatles. I mean, that song's been covered. The Beatles covered it.
The Beatles covered that song.
Yep, as sung by John Lennon. Yep, it's a good version. It's a good song. Yeah, and that's 50s rock too. You know.
What year did that come out?
I would say 59, 58, maybe.
58.
58. Okay.
1958. Yeah.
Wow.
Then he had one in 1960.
No. Perry, did he produce that?
I would think he probably did. He was probably the whiz kid even back then, you know?
Or him and Jack Nietzsche.
Yeah.
Because Nietzsche said God is dead. And then when Nietzsche died, God said, well, Nietzsche's dead.
And then he had, in 1962, he had a #1 hit with He's a Rebel.
Thank you.
He's a rebel. And when I say he had #1 hit, he was the engineer and producer. And
okay, so at that point he had went behind the mixing board. Okay,
he was the
that
producer.
The Cookies or something? Yeah. Who did He's a Rebel? That wasn't the Ronettes.
Crystals.
The Crystals.
Yeah,
they were big. They were big.
That was #1 in 1962.
62. Wow. You know something? Yeah. I was reading where the girl groups, even though they didn't write that stuff, that great material. Yeah. They kept rock alive when the men were all being like, "Sea Cruise, baby," just
the initial kind of died
Bobby
down.
Rydell, Wild One. I'm going to flip your wig. But they kept rock and roll vital, and that was it was Motown, but that was keeping rock and roll vital with the British invasion onslaught.
Yeah,
where the American male was full, like Frankie Avalon was just not.
Yeah.
Well, then he had the Ronettes.
Yeah.
Be My Baby, the Brian Wilson, that drove him, that really put the bug, the earwig in Brian Wilson's ear,
fire in his ass. Boom.
Yeah.
Boom.
Was that a #1 song?
No, #2. Never reached #1. Yeah.
No, that was, what year was that? 62?
1960. That was a year later. 63.
63.
Yeah.
So what was the #1 song? Sugar Shack?
And I don't know. Yeah.
Shake Shack.
And this is pre-Beatles, right?
Yeah.
Pre-Beatles in America.
In America, yeah.
Right. Yep.
As they were already #1 in Great Britain. What was the Beatles' first #1 in Great Britain?
Was it a cover or was it original?
It's an original.
I think it would have to be Please Please Me.
You are correct. Nice.
I was going to say I want to
give yourself some applause, Perry.
Oh, okay. All right. Where am I here? And so, 1965.
The sound effects are back.
It has a smash #1 hit produced by Phil Spector, The Righteous Brothers.
You've lost that love and feeling.
#1 U.S., #1 in the U.K., probably #1 in many other countries too.
Wow.
What year was that?
65.
Oh, wow.
You know what that song's characterized by?
No.
Huge friggin' reverb.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's, no, was that recorded? Was that Gold Star?
I think it was with that big plate reverb or whatever.
I think there's a giant there's a giant gold plate underneath the studio that just reverbed forever.
Yeah.
Now, Perry, on our effects units, or what we have a setting in reverb called gold plate. That's gold.
I never knew that. It never dawned on me that's the Gold Star.
It's ridiculous.
Reverb
it's
sound,
huge.
right?
Yeah, you have to contain it. It's just, it just goes forever.
Thunderstorms.
Now, you guys know who the Chambers Brothers were?
Yeah. Time.
No, wait. Oh, you're right, Mark. I'm thinking of something else. There was another group. They were Americans that made it big in England during the British invasion. But they had these songs. They were almost like the Righteous Brothers. Oh, I forgot that. Anyway, that was a bad reference because I thought I had the name. It was a total misleading side road.
Well, that was 1965. Smash hit the Righteous Brothers. Next year, 1966, Swing and a Miss.
River Deep Mountain High.
Ike and Tina Turner.
Disaster, right?
#88 in the U.S.
I have an alliteration. Phil's first flop.
What's that?
It's Phil's first flop.
Yeah, and it
didn't
kind of it kind of made him go crazy a little bit, I think.
Say that after 5 of these.
Phil's first flop. Phil's first flop at Royal Albert
It
Hall.
reached number 3 in the UK though, but it
Really?
didn't even. Number 88 was its highest charting in the US.
Do you know
Ike
who the
wasn't
drummer
happy.
was? Ike
Yeah.
wasn't happy. Now that was written by Ellie Greenwich, and who was her partner?
Barry Mann.
No, that was Cynthia Whale.
Oh,
Jeff Barry.
Excuse
Jeff
me, it was a
Barry.
Brill Building. Song,
Jeff
right.
Barry. I don't know if he wrote, but I think Phil Spector wrote that. Ellie Greenwich, but yeah. Now I read where Jim Gordon was the drummer on that, but he was not. It was the legendary Earl Palmer. Now he's credited with being one of the inventors of rock and roll.
Yeah,
and that's it, it wasn't a songwriter. He was a drummer, an instrumentalist rather. But
so that was it.
amazing guy.
1966. He flopped with River Deep Mountain High.
I got a question.
Yeah.
What year did Heroes and Villains by the Beach Boys come out? 67 or 8?
That was well, there was a follow up to that was the follow up to
Good
Pet
Vibrations?
Sounds.
Yeah.
That would have been on the Smile record.
So was that 68 when they put the
No,
single
it
out?
was like 66.
So so Heroes and Villains is to the Beach Boys what River Deep Mountain High is to Phil Spector. It came out. It was supposed to be a big smash. It was a big production.
Critics
it was a
hated
big deal, but it didn't resonate.
Yeah,
with the audience.
Interesting. Yeah, you say that because Brian Wilson loved Phil Spector, admired him to no end, and they both kind of slipped up there. Well, slip up. I mean, I think Heroes and Villains is a great song, but the critics.
I think it's a better song too.
Critics said it sounds like barbershop quartet music, or
yeah, kind of did it. It also had like kind of a country western thing, But
yeah.
Try
something different. Doesn't always take.
And I don't know. Van Dyke Park may have been a lyricist on Heroes and Villains. In fact, he was. Van Dyke Park wrote the lyrics for it. Yeah,
right. Whom Jim Gordon played on his album Song Cycles.
So he had this flop with River Deep Mountain High in '66. Nobody really heard from him until about 1970 when they gave him those tapes for the Beatles, Let It Be, and what was it, Get Back, or whatever the tapes were that they recorded and put it away. And they gave Phil Spector the tapes, and he did the angelic voices on the Long and Winding Road and Let It Be and all that. I
think it was overproduction by Phil Spector.
Yeah, produced by George Martin, overproduced by Phil Spector. But Long and Winding Road was a number one. So technically, he's back.
Yeah,
now
number one hit.
Well, he had a resurgence. Well, 1970 was a good year for Phil Spector in '71, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that was June. Let It Be came out in June 1970. Then he did George Harrison's record, right? All Things Must Pass. And My Sweet Lord was number one in December of 1970.
So that was Beatle.
Phil Spector's last number one hit was probably My Sweet Lord.
Right.
George Harrison.
It was the first Beatle. George was the first Beatle to have a number one hit. How's that for vindication?
Wow.
Good.
After being held down by John and Paul for so long, he comes out of the chute, takes a giant musical diarrhea dump.
Yeah, because in that Get Back movie, he had that song. He had that song, what was that, 69, right?
Yeah, yep.
And it kind of went nowhere with them. I guess they weren't interested, or that happens.
No,
right?
no, they were behind the scenes, and that didn't get recorded. There's probably Paul saying, "You also really good song. It's better than ours. Let's bury him." And John's like, "Well, I'm out of the Beatles now. Give George more time." At that point, Lennon was like, "Fuck it." He wouldn't have said that a couple years earlier. If so, then George would have had more songs on the White Album.
Who was the drummer on Instant Karma? Alan White or
Karma?
Instant Karma's going to get you.
Soda Pop.
Going to knock
I thought it was Buck Dharma's going to get you.
Was that Jim Gordon?
I think that's Alan White.
Alan White on Instant Karma, right? Yeah.
I think it's Alan White.
The Alan White from Yes. There's a few Alan Whites. Yeah.
Yes, the Alan White from Yes.
But Klaus Foreman was in the studio with Jim Gordon to do Carly Simon, right?
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yep. I knew you were going to do that. I got to say something about Let It Be.
Yeah.
What about it?
When I was a little kid, my first two Beatles albums.
Let It Be.
No, the album. My first two Beatles albums I ever heard. Little kid, I was maybe 6, 7 playing them, was Let It Be and Help. Fell in love with them. I was one of the people that growing up said that Let It Be's great. And I used to hear Beatle fans, oh, it's screwed up. I hate it. Everyone said I couldn't understand it, but I heard it so early.
Yeah.
And then when Let It Be Naked came out without the Phil Spector, it took me a few years to appreciate it. I didn't like it at first. Now I'm like, yeah, it shows, but he didn't like screw everything up. So two of us that stayed the same,
No, even though the Long and Winding Road, I think, is a big contentious one.
Yeah.
Well, it's got the chorus on it, but it's not bad. I mean,
yeah.
Oh, it's a good arrangement.
Of course it is, and that's all we ever heard. We didn't hear anything released. The only thing I'm happy about is that the Get Back documentary shows that they weren't all hating each other, and it wasn't all acrimony and bad feelings.
Yeah.
But Let It Be Naked is a much better record than the the Phil Spector Let It Be.
It had to be released. Whether or not you think it's better, it had to come out because you got to hear like Long and Winding Road. You heard what Paul McCartney.
Well, that was at Paul's insistence too. That Let It Be Naked comes out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So, of all people too,
Yeah.
Because Paul putting the saxophone on the end of Jet, to me, takes that song in a direction it shouldn't and need to
I got to tell you, I saw this
not
documentary.
bad. I just like what the only fucking part of the song has a saxophone solo is at the very end. It's like,
yeah.
Did you see this documentary with Rick Rubin? It was called McCartney 321.
I have not seen it yet.
You can find it's apparently it's on Hulu, but you can find it on YouTube. That's where I saw it.
Okay.
And I got to tell you, it is fantastic. And it wasn't just, Beatles stuff. He went into McCartney, Band on the Run, and, all these other things. And Paul played a little piano, and it was just a great documentary with Rick Rubin and Paul McCartney. It's called McCartney 321. You can find it up on YouTube. I think you'll really enjoy it. Yeah.
Cool.
And they were talking about Paul, like the instrumentation and everything that was added on some of these songs, like you said, with the sax solo at the end of the song and those kind of things.
Sax coda.
I know Mark's a big fan of Richie Blackmore, right?
Yes, I am, but I make no apologies for his behavior.
He was in Deep Rainbow, wasn't he?
He was.
He was. Deep Ellum Blues.
Blackmore's Deep Rainbow. Yeah.
After Richie Blackmore, can we just mention Joe Lynn Turner for a second?
Sure.
Sure. Anyway, there was some I saw an interview with Ian Gillan and Roger Glover and Blackmore, and of course not at the same time, but Blackmore bumped heads. He said, that him and Gillan were both strong-headed males, and they from day one they were like, rams bumping heads, like they were never going to get along. And but Roger Glover said that Richie Blackmore really was the boss,
Up to a point.
To a point. But he said that Richie would not tell you what to do. He'd tell you what he wouldn't do.
This is what I would do.
Well,
I would do this here.
And Roger Glover even said, he goes, it was great being in that band. He said, but the business part of it, that sucked. The business.
It doesn't always. It doesn't usually.
Yeah. Yep.
I think that the chemistry of that band, or the dichotomy, if you want to pick a better word, was that when Ian Gillan was in the band, because they butted heads, Richie took control whenever he could. So he was a strong leader and he was pushing through his stuff.
Yeah.
When Ian Gillan and Roger Glover left and they got in David Coverdale and Glenn Hughes, I think Richie, wasn't a leader anymore, and he ended up leaving the band. He lost control because they went into a more R&B direction.
Yeah.
Strange. You would think he would have been butting heads with Coverdale, but I guess sometimes you need to have a strong personality up against you for you to be strong. But those two, even when they reformed, they were.
Well, they always said Richie Blackmore's like a brooder. He's always brooding about something.
Yes, he does.
So I've heard the story. You've probably heard the story too about the plate of spaghetti, where Richie Blackmore had a separate dressing room. He always seemed to have his own dressing room. The rest of the band would be in another dressing room. So some assistant was coming in with a plate of spaghetti, and Ian Gillan says, "Hold on," pours all this ketchup on top of Richie Blackmore's
Irish-style spaghetti.
And
absolutely.
Yep. And brought it, and Richie's like, "What is this? What is this?" And the assistant told him that Ian poured that on there. So he walks over to their dressing room and shoves a plate of spaghetti in Ian Gillan's face. It's like,
oh man,
that's just what they do, you know?
Yeah. Richie really, he's not so much a brooder. He is a perfectionist. They say in rock and roll, he's got one of the best senses of time. So, you know, the drummer, if it's Ian Pace was his favorite drummer, I'm sure. But you saw in Rainbow, he went through how many bass players and drummers because of that, I think, you know. He's a perfectionist. And, you know, at some point you got to give it up. You got to say you're not going to get it perfect, but he wanted it perfect. Attitude, yes. I would never want to meet him. Never.
So Richie Blackmore was in a band with Joe Lynn Turner at one point?
Well, Joe Lynn Turner was one of the vocalists in Rainbow.
After Dio, I would think, right? Or
Mark, who's the original vocalist in Dio?
All right, so in Rainbow started with Ronnie James Dio. That was their golden medal year.
It did, okay.
Then they had Graham Bonnet for that one album with Since You've Been Gone.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, yep.
Great song. That's a great thing.
Yeah,
great singer. He's a great singer.
He is still alive. Yeah. He's still singing like that.
Yep.
And then Joe Lynn Turner came in direct from Long Island. Or Long Island,
Hackensack,
New Jersey. Yeah.
Shoot me. That's right.
Yep.
And apparently Joe Lynn Turner has a new record out or something, Lou.
Okay, so Perry sent me a YouTuber Vivo video of Joe Lynn Turner with a song called Tortured Soul, and oh my goodness. It's terrifying.
Wow. He stopped.
What the hell happened? What's going on here, man?
Well, a little background. We know he had that, what's that condition where you have no hair?
Alopecia.
So he had that. And so thank God him and Richie never mixed up their wigs. You know, that would have been funny, them coming out on stage. But
they won't do it now.
So he decided to go au natural at the age of 72. So yeah, Lou, what'd you do when you saw that?
But the song.
One thing I said, that is him. He's older.
Yeah.
His eyebrows are painted on. Looks like Joe Pesci and JFK.
But the song, Mark, have you heard the song?
Yes.
It's okay. The imagery, everything is red and bloody. There's this kid. The kid the young kid that's him being a persecuted youngster, but I mean it seems like he's hell bent on some demonic revenge or something. But it's really friggin' dark.
Vocals is like a Russian dirge funeral or something. You know?
It is so dark.
He is trying to be metal again. After he flirted with metal, he was with Yngwie Malmsteen for one album, and he's done some metal stuff. Yeah, that was Yngwie's best album.
Well, there's no Dio anymore, so
another asshole.
Crowd he wants, you know.
Yeah. No, Joe Lynn Turner's got a touch of gold, though. This album, he's definitely it's metal. It's just dark, you know.
Yeah.
But now he's got a good touch. I mean, he harnessed Yngwie for that one album they did together. It was Yngwie's most popular. He actually had an MTV hit with that album.
Did he?
And Yngwie still kicked him out or pushed him out of the band.
Where's he been? What Yngwie Malmsteen?
He's still putting. He's been. You gotta say something about Yngwie. I grew up a big Yngwie fan, and years back, he still puts out albums constantly. They sound like absolute garbage shit. He produces his own albums. They sound like they're recorded in a Campbell soup can. I don't know where he thinks he can get away with this. And he tours. He's got his loyal fans, but I can't listen to him anymore. Personally, it's just the same solo over and over again.
Well, speaking of Richie Blackmore, though, that's one of his major influences, right? Is Richie Blackmore?
Yeah. Two hotheads, right?
Yeah.
But you know what Blackmore said for the record? He said, I have nothing against Yngwie. Yeah, great, but he only concentrates, like he said, and I'm paraphrasing, I'm not getting this perfect. He says, he appreciates that Yngwie names him as his biggest influence, but he only got one part of my playing, and that's true. It's like all these, the speed, the heavy.
Certain scales, I guess, or that.
Yeah, you'll never hear Yngwie Malmsteen play a blues lick. Like Richie could just do a most delicate blues lick with a
Don't they both play scallop necks?
Yeah. Well, Richie doesn't even play strats anymore. He's mostly acoustic because he's got the Renaissance thing going.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
do you know that in all the Beatle records, Ringo sang 11 songs? In all the Beatle records, 11.
That's it? Only 11.
Yeah. Maybe like one per record, or maybe two on whatever. Anybody want to guess what the 11 songs Ringo sang are on all these Beatle records? 11 of them.
Mr. Cutter.
Helter Skelter.
I Get High with a little help from Perry and Lou.
A
There
little
you
help
go.
from my friends. Yeah, that's Ringo. Yeah, yep.
Boys.
Everyone.
Yeah, boys. Boy,
I've
that's
been told when a boy kisses
Yeah,
a girl.
that was originally like done by the Shirelles or something like that,
Yeah, that was done by a girl group.
right? Yep.
Kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
No, one way.
But at least they were like, well, we can't say that. Like, nah, man, this is just music,
Right.
Yeah.
Going to peel up the third, Octopus's Garden.
Yep.
Honey,
I'd
don't.
like to be.
Under the sea.
What'd you say, Lou? What song?
I said, Honey, Don't. Carl Perkins.
Yeah.
Ringo was a big country western fan.
Yeah.
Same vein, Act Naturally.
Yep.
Buck Owens, right? Was that a Buck
Yeah.
Owens song? The
That
Buckaroos?
was Buck Owens. Yeah. Yep. Another there's another Carl Perkins song in there. In fact, I had this 45. It was the flip side to Slow Down.
Did her. Carl Perkins said it wasn't blue suede shoes. George did that.
I spent hilly walking, matchbox holding my clothes.
Matchbox.
Yeah,
That's right. Okay.
matchbox. Yep.
Rock on one time. Anybody? How about Don't Pass Me By?
Don't Pass Me By, the White Album. Yeah.
What
Yep.
album? Right.
That's a great song.
And Yellow Submarine.
Yeah. Isn't that great?
Yep. Probably that was more of a John song than a Paul song.
I think John Lennon pretty much wrote that song, didn't he?
Yeah. And I heard a demo. It sounded very different.
There's another song that John Lennon wrote that Ringo sang, and it was
Good Night.
It was one of those songs that no Beatles played on it. Yeah.
It was Good Night.
Good Night. Yep.
How many we got?
That is a wonderful lullaby, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. Yep. Sounds like a Disney song.
Yep.
Can't count to 9.
So we got 9 out of 11.
There's still
Number
another one.
9.
The Rolling Stones recorded it first.
I Want to Be Your Lover.
I want to be your man. I want to
10.
be your man. Right.
Yep.
10.
I want to be your man.
One more.
There's one more.
It's got to be an earlier one, I think.
Yeah, I've got it here. I just have to see which ones we.
Ringo didn't sing anything on Let It Be. White Album, he sang Don't Pass Me By.
It's got to be an
I
early
got it.
song.
Nothing else. He only sang.
It's around 1965. In fact, he was a co-writer on it. What goes on in your heart?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That's another country song.
That's an original. That's an original.
That's an original. Written by Lennon
okay.
McCartney Starkey. Yeah.
Wow. Very cool.
That's a unique credit for a Beatles album.
I wonder how many leads George had. More than that.
Interesting. Yeah. From the first album, Don't Bother Me.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
He sang Roll Over Beethoven on whatever record that was on, right?
One of the early ones, too.
Yeah.
What's his other early hit, Don't Bother Me? Happy Just to Dance With You?
Yeah. Love the rhythm on that song. Love the rhythm on that song. Yeah.
Yep.
I don't want to squeeze or hold your hand.
Yep.
And I Need You. If I Needed Someone, 2 of his finest songs.
Yeah.
Now, didn't he have 3 lead vocals on Revolver? Taxman.
First song,
Love You Too.
Taxman. A lead guitar, Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
Right?
So Taxman, Love You Too.
Yep.
And I Want to Tell You.
That's another great song. Yeah.
So George had 3 leads on what I think is the Beatles' best album. Or my favorite. No, my favorite.
On that's
Beatles
Revolver,
record.
right?
Revolver.
Yeah.
On Horrendo Revolver.
Horrendo Revolver.
I'm Horrendo Revolver.
And George had he had some B-sides on some of their singles, right?
Old Brown Shoe, right? Is
Old
that a
Brown
B-side?
Shoe, The Inner Light. Wasn't that a George Harrison song?
Mm-hmm.
Great song. And doesn't the Inner Light, doesn't that one sound like Spinal Tap? I'm going to do Stonehenge.
I think it's an Indian. I think it's an sort of with Indian instrumentation.
It sounds like Stonehenge.
And the sun rose.
Excuse me.
It
can't
kind of has
remember
that
how that
kind of
went.
British fairy folk.
Oh, one of my favorite
thing to it.
George songs is from the White Album, Long, Long, Long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love Savoy Truffle.
Yeah.
So do I.
Oh, it's so cool. The drums have a delay on
Great
them.
drums.
It's
That's
really-
not Paul. Is that Paul or is that Ringo?
I think that's Ringo.
Yeah.
I think it's Ringo. But there's a delay on it. It's weird.
Yes, there is.
But,
Yep.
And those lyrics are so cool. It makes no fucking sense
yep.
whatsoever.
I've always been
Cool
partial to For You,
Cool.
Blue. That's been
Yeah.
one of my favorites. Hasty
Yeah.
playing on that song.
Oh, and Piggies.
Rock.
Piggies from the
yeah.
White Album, right?
Yep. Of course, While My Guitar Gently Weeps.
Yeah.
I think
I thought-
George had one of the big downers on Sgt. Pepper. But
Within You, Without You, or
yeah. That's his one song on Sgt. Pepper is Within You Without You.
there's one song that they what Blue Jay Way,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
There's
that's
a fog
on
upon
That's on
LA.
Magical Mystery Tour.
Yeah,
That's an instrument. Isn't that the instrumental?
Tragical History
No,
Tour.
that's
The
Flying.
Ruddles
Flying's
had
the
Tragical
instrumental.
History Tour.
Probably the only Beatles instrumental, right? Flying.
I think so.
they had-
Yep.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
no, number
Written
9.
by all four of them.
Yeah,
Flying.
but no, Flying. There's no. So that those backups are a Moog or a la la la.
No, you hear
la,
Ringo. You
la,
can hear
la.
Ringo in there. You can hear Ringo in there singing.
So that's not an instrumental. There's a vocal on it. It's not lyric, but it's a vocal.
Yeah, but all four of them
Okay.
are credited on writing that one, Flying.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds like a
I think there's
jam.
I think there's a technicality whether that's actually an instrument.
Good point.
I think.
Yeah. Yep.
Born
Well,
with contention.
no, because sometimes if they don't say a word, like they go la la la. la
There's no
and-
lyric. There's no like line
Yeah.
of lyric. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
There's got to be a
getting
rule
too,
about that somewhere.
We're getting too picky here.
Neurotic. Yeah.
Oh
Have you
man,
seen the Little Perrys? Farts McFadden.
how you doing?
Top of the morning to you, Farts. How's your
Hey.
lovely wife, Haggis?
Oh, haggis is great. Slightly sweet. Cooked
That was
all
my
day.
my English grandfather. That was his nickname for his wife.
cooked stomach.
Yeah, really. Stomach with guts and oats. I know.
I've
Haggis,
heard it's
how are you?
lovely. I've heard it's lovely, but there's some things I won't eat. Tongue, forget it, and
fuck it,
stomach. No.
No, I'm not doing it. In Italian, it's tripa. It's tripe.
Yeah.
And no, it's no a stomach full of guts. And people say you eat meat. Yeah, I do. I eat the muscle parts.
When I see tripe in the supermarket, it looks like a fishing net.
it
So,
does. I call it like a weird handbag or something. It's got this weird little pockets in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's textured. It's just weird.
Yeah.
Mark and I were just discussing the glories or not glories of organ meats, like haggis and tripe, or chitlins, intestines. You say?
Chitlins con carne.
I used to work. I used to
Squeeze the
work
poop out.
for a German guy. I mean, from Germany. And
I know who he is.
you know who he is. His name was Carl, right?
He's an Elvis impersonator.
Mr. Meisterbrow.
His real name is
It's
Wolfgang.
Funkstein.
But anyway, he said
It's
call me
Funkstein.
Carl. And he used to in the office. He would call up his wife, and he'd go, "You're a stupid woman. You don't know how to make meatloaf." And he's saying this in front of everyone.
Oh man.
Yeah, but she probably beat the crap out of him when he came home.
It
I
was
don't
just,
think. No, I don't think so.
No.
She was too
Lou
mean.
knows the wife. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this the
that poor
guy
girl.
that was known for returning the Meisterbrow because it wasn't fresh enough or something?
No, he came into Andrew's
Well, he
Liquors
sent
one
me
time.
to return it. Yeah.
Well, when Perry and I were at Andrew's Liquors, I had to raise the price of Beck's, he bought Beck's beer.
Mm-hmm.
So one time he comes up to the counter, he's like, "Funkstein." I'm like, "I don't care what." He goes, "Funkstein." I'm like, "I don't know what the hell he's
That's
talking
right.
about." Because it went from $15.99 to $16.99. And I'm like, what? What do you want? He goes, "Funkstein." I'm like, Evan. He paid it, left, and he started saying shit in German. The guy behind him must have known German. He goes, "You don't want to know what he was saying to you." I'm like, "Oh, son of a bitch, man!" Like he was cursing me out. So he nicknamed Fumpy. Funkstein. Hey, Fumpy.
Bumpy.
He looked like a pig.
Fump time.
Bumpy's
like a-
McFadden.
He had the face of a pig. He was a horrible person.
Since
He
we
worked
were
for him,
just
but-
on, since we were just on a little Beatle subject.
Yeah.
That song, "The End" from Abbey Road.
Yeah.
Where Ringo's only drum solo,
Yep.
and then they each take a guitar solo.
Yep.
The lineup is Paul, George, John.
Right.
Paul is the first one.
Right.
George is the second, and then John is the third. There was some confusion whether it was George and Paul, but it's
Yes.
McCartney, Harrison, Lennon.
Yeah.
That's the
You know-
order of the guitar solos.
there's similarities between Paul and George. Sometimes
Yeah,
you didn't know that was not George playing the guitar solo on Taxman, but you know when it's a Lenny guitar solo.
You always do, yeah.
It's not slick at all. It's not slick at all.
Yeah.
It's
So Perry, this is the start of Southern rock. The Beatles, 3 guitar players. Couldn't you just see them all on stage? You know?
That's the triple guitar threat.
Well, it's probably the only time it happened, right? But that was it. That's the lineup. It's McCartney, Harrison, Lennon on
That's intense.
The end.
Yeah.
And that's the only time it happened, and Ringo's only jump solo. So, I mean, wow. Think about that, you know?
I remember WNEW in New York playing that album side when they did album side weekends. And I remember saying to my sister, I heard this song by the Beatles. It's like 20 minutes long.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, Mark. Yeah, I was only like 7 years old. I thought, it's intense, you know? Yeah.
Think about it.
Think about the sound of Ringo's drums in that guitar, that drum solo. It's recorded so well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
But
and I've heard
he didn't want to do it.
Well, I've heard from drummers, and you can you could say, like, what if someone asked you to play it exactly like Ringo? I heard it's very hard. Yeah.
No. Yeah. It's probably a mixture of left-handed and right-handed drumming. And I don't know. You may be able to recapture the note, but that feel you're not going to get, probably.
I think the closest, Abraham Laboriel, Paul McCartney's drummer. He does it pretty good, but it's not the same.
Okay.
You know?
Right. Well, Ringo is a left-handed drummer playing a right-handed kit, right?
Right. Yep.
So I've seen Ringo interviewed where he says most right-handed drummers, you would go around this way. He said he couldn't do that because he was lefty. So that's why he started his rolls from the right going over to the left. And it was always like a split-second delay, which is fantastic, right?
Yeah. Yep. Because to go from the snare drum to that, the first tom-tom that's mounted onto the bass drum, it's a quick jump. I do it from the floor tom-tom, from the snare drum to the floor tom-tom. You have to cross over your right leg, which is on the kick drum. Yeah. So it requires it, but he did a lot of, come together. Most people don't know that he's starting at the floor tom-tom and working.
Correct. Was completely opposite of what any right-handed drummer would do. Yeah. And
I found as you know, I'm left-handed also, but play right-handed kit.
Yeah.
There's certain left-handed things I can do. I can't do. It's called the double stroke roll. You go left, left, right, right. I can't do it the way a right-handed person does it. I have to do it the floor tom-tom way. The other way I can do it. Certain things I can't go another way. So it's a weird thing, but it was definitely the basis of a lot of his drum fills. He started with his left hand, and then it's like an oh shit moment because it's set up differently. Where, like you said, there's that almost delay. The beginning of Drive My Car. Next time you hear, listen to the very beginning. It's almost out of time. It's weird. He drops the beat in. I can't hum it out, but next time you hear it, it's a weird intro. Like what?
Well,
very
I like
unusual,
that,
very unusual.
That cover song they did, "Slow Down," right?
Yeah, it's got a crazy ass drum
the
fill.
Drum fills he does on that, they're
nutty.
They're fabulous, man.
Yeah, fabulous.
It's like he drops them in from somewhere.
Yeah, yep, absolutely.
But it totally fits. But it's very, very creative. So that's when Mark and I were on the Milk Crates and Turntables podcast last week. Mark was your friend. Was it John? Goes, what do you guys think of Ringo? So we all had a weigh in.
James Alston.
Alston. Yeah. So we all had a weigh in. I said, some people are going to say, he just served the song. Well, sure he did. That's what you're supposed to do as a drummer. But he added a lot of icing to those cakes.
Now, let me a quick music relish drum clinic moment. Lou, going to ask you a question. It's a technical question on drums. When I sit at a drum, if I try to make you going, you're hitting the snare and the hi-hat, and you're doing that 4/4. If I try to have the hand that's hitting the hi-hat over my snare hand, like most drummers do it, I can't do it. I'm hitting myself. So what I do is I'll take my left hand and hit the snare. Why don't drummers do that? Is there some reason? Like, is there a reason you have to have your hand over the hand that's hitting the snare? Is it easier to do fills? I mean,
no, I think it's basically done for right-handed people. I think that's so. What you do is if you're a right-handed person, you're sitting behind the kit. Your right hand is over on the hi-hat, and it is going to cross over your left hand, which is on the snare. The thing is to have your hi-hat high enough where the snare and the hi-hat have a disparity of space where you're not doing that. My electric kit's kind of hard to do that, so I know what you mean. Where I can't raise it high enough, I run out of that extension pole to do it. But there's got to be space between it. But some drummers don't like that. And Perry, one of the drummers you mentioned, I think it was Gary Chester. Maybe this guy, he was a session guy, but he taught independence. Where if you see Mellencamp's drummer, Kenny Aronoff, he plays the hi-hat with his left hand.
Yeah, that's what I can do.
And the snare with his right. Okay, so it's almost like cross left hand, right hand stuff.
Yeah,
so.
But I just like 99.9% of drummers do it the standard way. You know?
Yeah. But, you learn how to space it. So, like I said, but the thing is to have your hi-hat high enough where you got enough room for both hands to move.
I was hitting my hands.
Interesting
but
thing.
now, if you look at Charlie Watts, I think it was part of his feel where so many times when he'd hit the snare drum, he would take his hand off the hi-hat.
Yeah, and it makes it look like he's not really playing it or something.
Right.
Yeah.
That hi-hat arm is in a suspension of time until the snare hit the 2 or the 4 on the snare. Then he goes back on the hi-hat, on the 1.
But it's funny how you talk about these English drummers, how they play behind the beat, and we know what that means, right?
Yeah.
You just said Kenny Aronoff. Kenny Aronoff looks like he's leaping out of front, almost playing too fat,
And Stuart Copeland as well, a lot of times.
Yeah. American, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, Perry, a lot of our earlier stuff too that we recorded. One song in particular, I Jumped the Gun.
Like what song would that be?
It was called Feel No Pain. I wrecked it.
Yeah, we'll play that on the Music Relish radio show.
Oh, you're gonna do that? Okay, yeah, make it look bad.
Yeah, because that's got an intricate drum beat though. Intricate, yeah.
It was. I thought it was a good song, but that was something where a different producer would have said, and we should have said, stop, do it over. It's not acceptable. But we got
to hear it. I got to hear this song.
You know what? There's an interesting thing, like, we did a segment in the past, and we'll do it again on like DIY recording. Like, you know what? Sometimes the mistakes just leave them in, like you can't, especially when you're recording at home,
Yeah.
How many times leave the mistakes in there, man? So what? It's real,
We did it on our song "What a Day" number 9, where I do a drum fill and I kind of bailed out at the ending of it. It's not a mistake. I just kind of go subtly,
right?
Because in my mind I'm like, mistake, but then I'm like, well, keep going for the end of the sake of the song,
right? But this is where like you can make yourself crazy. This is why some people spend a year, 2 years in the studio. Like, come on, you know what? Let's just move on with it.
I saw an interview with Rudolf Schenker, who was the rhythm guitarist in the Scorpions, and they were asking him about. There's a song on the Blackout album, which had "No One Like You," the big breakout album.
Yeah,
it's when the smoke goes down. I get the last song on the album, and the interviewer goes, "Now you did the solo on that, and the guitar's out of tune. It's not at the right pitch." And he goes, "So?" And the interviewer said, well, "Why did you leave it?" And he went, "We liked it." I love that answer. It's like, you don't always have to have, like Perry said, you can sit there and make everything perfect. They like it. Leave it.
If it's a train wreck, okay. On the Beatles song, it's "If I Fell." Yeah. There's one of the parts toward the end, Paul's voice kind of cracks. Was in vain. It's like a crack, and I think that's something where they might have done it over, but it really didn't have to. The Mamas and Papas on them. I saw her again I saw her again.
A mistake is in there. Yeah. Yep.
There's a mistake is in there where they go, I saw her again.
Right.
They jumped into the chorus,
right?
But they kept going. If you hear the genius of Hal Blaine, he heard it, and knew it was a mistake, but he just kept riding on the hi-hat till they all came back to the chorale.
And credit to Lou Adler too for saying, "Let's just keep it in there."
Let's just keep it. But at the time behind the booth, they're like, "Fuck,"
Right.
But the thing was, they next time you hear they jumped the gun, they just say, "I saw her."
Yeah.
I saw her again.
Yep.
But
I got another one for you.
Yeah, go.
Led Zeppelin, Immigrant Song, right before the last verse where he goes, "So now you better stop, listen closely." You hear Robert go, "So now you better." He comes in too early, I love that stuff. Leave it in there,
Leave it in, yeah.
So like some of these,
it's not a finger in the eye. It's not, what the hell,
Yeah. So on some of these DIY recordings that Lou and I have done, some on my own, some on Lou's on his own, the mistakes are okay, man. They don't ruin the recording because I hit a couple of bad notes on the mandolin or whatever it was. So what,
They sound great. They sound great.
Well, Lou's a perfectionist, right?
Yeah, I'm an asshole.
Hey, it's the Neil Peart in you. Can't help it.
I had a teacher say, "You show me a perfectionist and I'll show you a jackass."
There's a lot of jackasses in the world.
How about one name artists? Can you name some one name artists?
Can we do this? I have a cleanup on aisle 13. I just got a call to clean up on aisle 13. I'll be right back. Talk amongst yourselves.
Excuse me, I dropped the milk, sir.
So Richie Blackmore is, I don't know. He's always like a prima donna, like
he's calmed down.
What about the time I was at your house and you showed me this film where they're playing Highway Star or whatever it was. Like he wouldn't come out for 20 minutes, So
that tour was the last tour he ever did with Deep Purple. He came back in the band. He got Joe Lynn Turner on the Deep Purple album. Then Joe Lynn Turner was out. They got Ian Gillan back. They did one album. I actually talked to somebody that knew someone who engineered that album. It was done in upstate New York. And they said this tension in the studio between Blackmore and Gillan was just bad. They did the tour.
This was a comeback. This was a comeback tour.
It was, right? Well, they did the Perfect Strangers album, which was their big comeback. They did another album, House of Blue Light. Then they did a live album. Then Ian Gillan left. He was fighting, whatever. They fought. They brought in Joe Lynn Turner. They did an album with him. It's a good album. It's very smooth. It sounds like a Rainbow album. I like it, though. Then they got Ian Gillan back, and they did The Battle Rages On. It's a heavy album. It's great. It sounds good, but
That's
did the
name
tour.
Of the record, The Battle Rages On?
Yep. And then they did a tour, and I don't know which anniversary it was, 35th anniversary. I'm not sure. But Richie was mad because they just wanted to do the old stuff, and he wants to move on. He doesn't like doing greatest hits and all that. So the DVD, first of all, every song, he only comes out and plays like the solos, and he goes back. But he evidently had something that pissed him off that morning, so he came out, and he was mad, and he threw water at the cameraman. That's what you saw. And to hear Ian Pace say it, Richie's a unique guy. Something could happen at 9 a.m. in the morning, and it'll just blacken his mood for the whole day. And that's basically what happened in that one.
Yeah. Yep. But that's the to me, he was always, I've seen him interviewed recently. Like he lives in Long Island or something, right?
He's a lot different now. He married. His wife. They've been doing. His wife sings in the band Black.
Yeah, they do that like English folk music or something, right?
He's been doing that longer than Deep Purple, and they're still married. And she made him a happy man. So he's actually approachable now, from what I hear.
Very cool.
He likes his beer.
So, can you guys think of any one-name artists?
Dido.
Dido.
It's not so bad.
Who's Dido?
It's not so bad because it's not so bad. Was that a big hit?
You ever heard of Dido?
You heard it.
Dido's a she?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Dido.
Bono.
Madonna.
Sting-a-ding-ding-ding.
Sting-a-ding-ding-ding.
My sting-a-ling, your sting-a-ling.
Sting-a-ding.
Zorro.
On the fields of garlic.
Oh, that breath.
Flea.
Flea.
That's
Flea
5.
circus.
That's
Lulu.
5. Lulu. Hey, Lulu. Yeah, man. Lulu. Yeah.
To Sir with Love? Was that her?
That was to Sir with Love. Yeah.
Chi-Chi Boom Boom Lulu. No, Chi-Chi Lulu Boom Boom.
How does To Sir with Love goes? You never close.
No,
that's
summer days.
Yep.
Now, both Natalie Merchant and Michael Stipe sang that at Bill Clinton's 1992 inauguration.
Oh, wow.
Really?
To Sir with Love, yeah.
Oh, got one. Donovan.
Donovan, yep. Multi. Who's Multi, you might ask?
Who's Multi?
His last name is Tasker.
He was a famous one-handed drummer. I think he was from the Barbarians. One of his hands had a hook.
Wow.
So yeah,
he was a drummer?
He was a drummer, yeah.
That's his name.
Wow.
All right, we're going with it.
Multi.
We're going with it.
Did he own a shrimp shack?
I think there was like a nautical theme, probably.
Okay. In honor of fluffy long hair, Yanni.
The Greeks don't want no freaks.
I do have a couple of his albums.
Rihanna.
Yeah, Rihanna.
Usher.
That's 10. Usher.
Prince.
Lord or Lord.
Lord.
Ooh.
She's a singer.
Lord,
Lord,
You
right?
can call me Queen Bee.
I like Lord.
Lordy.
Who's the singer from Colombia?
Oh, Shakira, my heartthrob.
Shakira.
Shakira,
That's
Shaki.
right. That's right.
I love
Shakira.
Shakira. Do you know her
Astrid.
first English album was engineered by Eddie Offord, and she had a lot of people that worked on Zeppelin albums in the studio there.
Really?
Yeah, she likes rock and
very
roll.
cool.
You said Prince already, right?
Yeah. Dion. Not Dion. Dion on the
That's what he
Belmonts.
went by. Yeah,
He
Dion.
didn't go by Dion. He didn't go by Demuch.
He is Dion. Yeah. Yeah.
Dion Demuch.
Yeah. Some of his records just said Dion on it, right?
I got one.
What?
Liberace.
Liberace. Libby. 5, 10, 15. That's like 16 already. Libby.
Fabulous list.
Astrid.
Who's
Or is it
Astrid?
Gilberto.
Mm-hmm.
Did
She
she
went
go
by
by
that
Astrid?
name. Yeah,
She went
His
by
name is just Astrid?
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay.
I think Lou's guy, yeah.
She had that song, The Girl from Iwo Jima.
Oh, got another one. Cher.
Mm.
Cher. Yes. Boy George. No, it's 2 words.
Yeah.
I
Trying
got
to
one.
think.
I got one. Astro from the late Astro from UB40. He was their DJ guy, I think.
Okay.
Really? He was in the band, huh?
Astro. And Lamal from Kajagoogoo, the original
That's
lead singer
20.
of Kajagoogoo, singer of
Tusha.
Tusha.
And who was in Kajagoogoo? Here we go at the synchronicity. Nick
Warren
Beggs on
Cucurullo.
bass.
Oh,
No,
yeah,
Nick Beggs, the bassist, who is now with Steven Wilson, my favorite
Oh,
artist.
That's wild.
Steven
Man.
Wilson.
He was
Oh.
in Kajagoogoo.
Nick Beggs, not Steven Wilson.
Got another one.
Right. Nick
Nick
Beggs
Beggs.
was in Kajagoogoo.
Yeah.
Now he's in.
Yep.
That's wild.
And
Adele.
he does other stuff.
Adele.
All right.
Adele.
Adele.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait.
How about-
I mentioned Steven Wilson. Okay. Sorry.
How about Fred from Right Said Fred?
Is he too sexy, though?
Say,
No.
Right Said Fred Wilson.
Can't give you that one. Oh, God.
Fine.
Me and my son watch soccer every weekend, and when Manchester United play, there's a player, the name on his shirt is Fred. So every time they show him, my ADD kicks in. I go, dude, will you shut up, Dad? Shut up. Shut up.
You said Madonna already, right?
On the catwalk.
Yeah.
On the catwalk.
How about Slash?
Slash.
Yeah.
That's right.
5, 10, 15.
Is there anyone from the older times? 70,
Eno. No, it's Brian.
No, Enya.
And
Yes.
Sail away.
Yeah, the lactose tolerant milk ad.
That's right.
I got another one. I'm not too familiar with her songs, but her name is Pink.
Pink, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Good.
That's right.
Wow.
Melanie.
Melanie.
Good one.
Buddha
Yeah.
Records.
Melanie, yeah. Lou's dad hired
Met
her
her.
or something, right? Or
No,
fired her?
He met her in a furniture store in New Jersey. He's probably hitting on her.
Met her in a crosstown
hip.
bar. Was that
met
Don't
her.
Stop Believing?
You said Beyonce?
No. We did not
Good
say
one.
Beyonce.
Well, Beyonce.
Farts, as in Farts McFadden.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty good anyway,
That's-
right?
I
All those
got
one-name artists.
blanks on that one, yeah.
Probably 100 more.
Oh, of course, yeah. Probably more in today in the modern day.
Yeah. I saw where that was going.
Yeah.
Timberlake.
Yeah.
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 Seems to be the thing, right? Just call yourself,
Well, speaking about yourself in the third person.
Yes.
Mark says
Pink doesn't do that. Lou doesn't do that.
Well, we got about 28 of them. That's not bad, man, right?
Well, yeah. No. 28, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Including multi.
One-name artist. Yep.
A one-handed drummer.
Oh, I got one more.
Lay it on us.
Meatloaf.
Great.
Good catch. Good one.
Good one.
Okay.
Any other ones that are named after food?
Well, yeah.
He might be the
Eggs.
only one.
Eggs. You give me eggs? Oh, he's great. He's awesome.
That's great. Eggs McFadden.
Lou, you had wanted to talk about what do you want to talk about? Like some certain kind of songs, right?
Tales from the Stony Lonesome. Tales from the Big House. Prison songs.
Prison songs.
You're in the
songs about
house
jail
now.
Yeah. Mark, funny you should mention that because I don't know who did that song.
What song?
You're in the jailhouse now.
Jimmy
That's
Rogers.
What George Clooney sang.
No, that's Jimmy Rogers.
Yeah.
George Clooney, all right. Well, he did.
Jimmy Rogers.
Okay.
Where
Jimmy Rogers may have written it. Not the country singer, not the Jim. There's two Jimmy Rogers.
Yes, there is.
This is the old Jimmy Rogers who died of TB, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Now, the other Jimmy Rogers hit, what was his big hit?
He had a couple of country hits.
Was it white sport coat and a pink?
Maybe, yeah. His from the 60s,
like that.
More like in the 60s. But Jimmy Rogers was much older than that.
He was a singing brakeman, wasn't he?
Singing brakeman. He wrote T for Texas, T for Tennessee. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
He's in the jailhouse now.
All right, just a quick thing. The Jimmy Rogers version of In the Jailhouse Now was recorded in 1928 in Camden, New Jersey.
Yeah,
that's right. We covered that. We talked about that one.
Yeah,
we might be rehashing a genre here that was part of the old days, or were we? Or no?
It's before I was in the 10 years you were on. Before I was on.
No, we were talking trains. It was train songs we were doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So we're not rehashing. Although we have rehashed from our
because he was the singing brakeman, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Because we used to do a podcast over our telephones. Remember those days?
I remember them well.
Don't step on anybody. Don't step on anybody. What?
Wait. Lou won't have internet for another 6 months, so we're going to keep trying every Sunday to do a friggin' podcast on telephones. Those are funny days, man.
I got it. PTSD.
Look how far we've come.
So what else? What other prison songs do you have, Lou?
There's a bunch. I'm going to name. I have a couple start off here. One is "Band on the Run" by Wings.
That's a prison song.
And Jailer Man and Sailor Sam.
Look at the cover of the album.
The cover of the album. They're breaking out of jail.
Yeah.
They're all dressed in the stripes, like there's in like Marx Brothers prison outfits. So that's got some. It doesn't have to be about being in prison, but I think there's allusions to it.
Right. So we'll bypass like the kinds of blues that I like is like those blues artists from the 20s, 30s, and 40s. You know, those real acoustic blues. They've had so many songs about jail-bound, prison-bound, chain gang songs. So yeah, those are. Blind Lemon Jefferson, they all had songs about going to prison and all that. So we'll bypass that for now. We're talking about a little more contemporary, right?
Okay. Yeah. More like the rock and roll. Yeah. Okay, well, I named one.
How about Lead Belly? Let the midnight special shine the light on me.
Is that about prison?
Yeah, the midnight special is the train that heads to the prison.
That's the train that heads to the prison. That's right.
Light, yeah.
Bow, bow, bow. Very cool.
Yeah, that's a Lead Belly song.
I'm writing that down.
Midnight Special, yeah.
So who was the artist whose version of Midnight Special is the version that was on the TV show Midnight Special?
Well, Creedence recorded it.
He's a big favorite of mine and Perry's. What's that?
Creedence recorded it. Johnny Rivers may have recorded it.
Johnny Rivers' version is the one that's on.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's right. But I believe it's a Lead Belly song. Yeah.
Right. I think it's Farts McFadden's turn to a prison song.
I'm thinking. So, Lou, take a turn.
Okay. I got one. It's off one of the worst recorded albums of the 1970s. The year was 1979. The album is A Long Run by the Eagles. The song is called Teenage Jail.
Really? Can you say filler on an album where they couldn't come up with songs? Oh my God!
Tell me about it. Yeah. Now you're lost.
Well, they ran out of blow, so they had to do so. Right?
Those all went to the mixing board, Perry.
Those shoes. Don Henley came up with a drum thing. Okay, let's do wow, wow, wow.
That's one of Don Felder's contributions to that record.
Yeah.
Yeah, a teenage jail is just like, oof.
I've got a prison song.
You do.
Merle Haggard, Mama Tried. I turned 21 in prison, doing life without parole. No one could steer me right, but Mama tried. Mama tried.
Yeah. And Merle had quite a few prison songs, probably.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
Can I throw an obvious one out there?
Keep
Yeah.
going, because I'm thinking.
Folsom Prison Blues, Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
I'm trying to think of something a little more,
Right.
you know.
That's
I had
the
to do,
lyrics in that song.
lookups.
Great. In fact, the later verses are even better. That song just gets better verse by verse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the lyrics there are just like, ooh.
Yeah.
Well, when he
yeah.
the live in the one to record live in the jail, when he says I shot a man in Memphis, you hear a whole room go, yeah,
Yeah.
just to watch him die. Dark lyrics for that time.
That reminds me of like a movie in Cold Blood. You ever seen the movie?
Yeah.
Yes.
Just like, just doing it just for the sake of doing it.
Yeah.
I got one. Chain Gang by the amazing, legendary Sam Cooke.
That's the sound of the man working on the chain.
Okay.
Gang.
Lou,
Ooh.
I will take your Chain Gang and up the ante with Pretenders back on the Chain Gang.
Back on the Chain Gang, yes.
Back on the chain gang. I think I've got another one. Finn Lizzy, tonight there's gonna be a jail break.
Damn! I love that song.
That's a prison song, right?
Yep.
One of my favorites, Christmas in Jail by John Prine.
Great song.
It's a great song. I play it every Christmas, of course.
To those of us who feel sorry for ourselves a lot, that is just the best song. I'm not saying you guys do, but I do.
And John Prine was
We
great.
love our moments. Yeah. The late, great American treasure, John Prine.
I really miss him. I really miss him. I
mean,
mean,
it's funny. I love this stuff, but things I love, but that one album that Perry mentioned, like, it helped me appreciate
the album
really
we reviewed, The Jesus.
Yeah.
That's a great album. Perry, we still thank you for that.
Our album reviews, there's always hit and misses. That was a home run. That was one of the home runs.
Yeah.
We all agreed wholeheartedly on something.
I like everything. Everything is fabulous. Fabulous,
I got one.
Fabuloso. What have you got, Lou?
I Shall Be Released by the Band.
That's a prison song?
It's about imprisonment in general. It's about being entrapped of sorts.
Wow.
I believe. It could have applied to, say, Nelson Mandela and his plight.
Wow, cool.
For every man that's
throw some more out there because I've got no more.
Listen, okay. I need to pour a glass of wine to think. So
I got one. Jailhouse Rock by Elvis Parsley. What's green and sings?
Elvis Parsley. Going to a party in the county. Yeah. Jailhouse Rock. Yeah.
Wait, something just came up.
That's called vomit. That's called oatmeal. I got one. Life in Prison by Merle Haggard.
Yeah.
Still Doing Time by George Jones.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to hit one on you. Give me a second. I do have to Google it because I can't remember the name.
Right.
Keep talking.
George Jones.
What if it's the one I was going to mention here? How about, this is an old one, Riot in Cell Block 9, an early Lieber and Stoller song.
Yeah.
The Grill Building.
Yep.
It's about a riot in prison. I mean, that's in prison, a riot, which those can be scary.
Yeah.
And let's see. Other ones I got Women's Prison by Loretta Lynn. I guess that's being a housewife, probably. It's a housewife to an abusive husband, most likely.
That's a metaphor.
Yep. The Clash. Jail guitar doors. So apparently, I don't recall the song, but I read about it. It's about 3 different people. About Wayne, the guy from the MC5. I forgot.
Wayne Kramer.
Joe Strummer wrote about 3 people, but Wayne Kramer and one of the other guys got together in the wake of that, and they provided a program to provide musical instruments for inmates in prison. So guys like fallen Manson follower Bobby Busley can continue to make demonic music in prison. Thanks to people.
Well, didn't the Clash cover that Eddie Grant song, "Police on My Back"? I'm running.
Yeah,
in that sort of a prison song. Like maybe they broke out of prison and the police are on their back,
You're on the run. And how about this one? 40 songs men do not sing in prison.
What are some of those, Lou?
Let's hear this. I want to hear this.
You,
Yeah, I do. I absolutely
I
do.
would
that. Come on.
songs you would not sing in prison.
Okay, hang on a second.
Big Balls by AC/DC.
It might be. It might
It's
be.
Raining Men.
That should be on there. Okay. 40 songs.
Big 10-inch by Aerosmith. Or cover.
That's on there. Talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah, we got to talk about some crazy album covers, too, that we've seen in the past, right?
Here we go. Okay. Here we go.
I'm out of here.
What are some
Okay.
songs you would not sing in prison, Lou?
40 songs men don't sing in prison. Number 1, I'm in you. You're in me, Peter Frampton. Number 2, Slide It In by Whitesnake. Number 3, Tunnel of Love by Bruce Springsteen.
Oh, boy.
Number 4, Love Hurts.
Oh, gosh. No comment, man. I'm staying out of this one.
Number 5, I was made for loving you, baby. Number 6, Lovin', Touchin', Squeezin' by Journey. Number 7, this is really bad. Mama Told Me Not to Come by Three Dog Night. Number 8, I Am Woman by Helen Reddy. Jim Gordon played the drums on that. Not in maybe in prison. All right. Number 10. Number 9, Beat It by Michael Jackson. Number 10, Head, Shoulders, Knees, and Toes by the Old School Song. Okay. Number 11, This Is You, Mark, My Big 10-Inch by Aerosmith. Number 12, Hey Joe, Where You Going with That Gun in Your Hand? Okay. 13, Get Your Freak On by Missy Elliott. 14, Can You Feel the Love Tonight by Elton John. 15, I Wanna Kiss You All Over by Exile. Number 16, Hit Me With Your Best Shot, Pat Benatar. Number 17, I Want You to Want Me, Cheap Trick. Number 18 is Missy Elliott again. Number 19, Baby One More Time by Britney Spears. Number 20, I'm Too Sexy for My Prison. Number 22, You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman by Number 3, Kiss Me by Sixpence None the Richer. She's really asking for it in that song in a lot of ways. 24, Girls Just Want to Have Fun by Cyndi Lauper. 25, Wake Me Up Before You Go by Wham. 26, Get Down by B44. 27, Push It Real Good by Salt and Pepper.
I love that song.
28, Why Don't We Get Drunk and Screw by Jimmy Buffett. 28, I Will Make Love to You by Boys to Men. I'm going to skip over number 30. Number 31, You Can't Touch This. Number 32, I Feel Like Making Love by Bad Company. Number 33, Knock 3 Times by Tony Orlando and Dawn. I Don't Get It. 34, I'm Your Backdoor Man by The Doors. Number 35, Tube Snake Boogie by ZZ Top. Number 36, another ZZ Top song called Pearl Necklace. This is getting good. Number 37, Stand By Your Man. Number 38, Bend Me, Shape Me Any Way You Want Me by The American Breed. Number 39, I Get Off on You by Barry White. And number 40, also Barry White, You're My First, You're My Last, My Everything.
Oh, boy.
40 songs men don't sing in prison.
I got 3 honorable mentions.
You
Cowboy
do.
Take Me Away by the Dixie Chicks. They were going to give you up. Rick Astley. Been Caught Stealing. And Baby Got Back. I can't believe that wasn't on your list.
Missy Elliott was on there twice.
Big
All right.
10-inch record.
Oh, boy.
That's the cover. Aerosmith covered that song.
Yeah,
Yes,
That's
it's
like a Big Joe
old
Turner
jazz
song or
song.
something. Yeah.
Big Joe Turner? Yeah, probably, yeah. All right, that might have been a little insensitive or whatever, but I don't think so. It's just, it's a website.
It's professional show business comedy.
It's
professional
educational.
business comedy.
If you ever go to
Lenny-
prison, don't sing these songs.
That's right. Lenny Bruce would laugh.
You know, the other day I saw this thing. I guess it's a little show. Metallica played with the San Francisco Orchestra. And it was kind of interesting, actually.
Yeah,
You know,
I've
I
seen
mean, I don't have any Metallica records. Probably never will, but I still enjoyed it. You know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
it was pretty cool. Like nobody was you know, like when Kirk Hammett did a solo and he was playing over, you know, with the he was playing with the orchestra, not over them, and it was very nice. James Hetfield, like, it was really good. I don't know what it was called, but it was Metallica.
I think it's
playing,
called S&M or something like that. It's.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
What does that stand for? And what's that got to do with prison?
Symphony and Metallica.
No, I thought you did your prison.
I'm lost in teenage jail. So young, so vicious, and so frail.
Hey, you know what? And Perry, you touched on something there. The soul thing. It was like a thing for a while. All these bands, mostly hard rock bands, were doing stuff with orchestras.
Yeah.
Some did them good, some did them bad. Yes did a tour with an orchestra.
Purple did it like in 72 or 3, right?
Yeah,
Really?
and then they did it back in the 90s again, or the early 2000s when Steve Morse was on guitar.
Yeah.
Yes did a great tour. Really good tour. I mean, it wasn't
With an
forced.
orchestra?
It just
Really?
Yeah, and you know what? There's two ways to do orchestra in a band. You can either force it where the band, like those London Symphony Orchestra tributes to Pink Floyd, that sounds forced. But if you can arrange the songs to meld them, so when Yes did their tour, it was excellent because they arranged the strings within, and they learned how to do a tour without going broke. They just hired an orchestra in each city instead of trying to take an orchestra with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that Metallica thing,
They
it is
employed
good.
local musicians.
Yeah.
But the Metallica thing sounded really nice. It really did.
A lot of heavy metal and hard rock has, a lot of these musicians are classically influenced, so it really kind of makes sense.
You're right, because there's that Bach thing, and interesting. Yeah. Yep.
And an example of one that in my opinion, didn't work. Some people may disagree with me, is when Scorpions, during that whole hype, they did a thing with an orchestra.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
And they have some ballads that it would work with, but when they did Rock You Like a Hurricane with the orchestra, I checked that. I'm like, nah, it just, it doesn't, it was forced. I wasn't.
Really?
Yeah.
What's the song? That, I don't know. I forgot the name of it.
Still in Love with You. All the ballads worked good. Still in Love with You. Wins the Change, of course.
That's the one. That's when Wins the Change. Yeah, that was kind of written for that almost.
I think that was their only number one, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Well, even go back to the Who. The Who did an orchestral version with the London Symphony Orchestra of Tommy in the early 70s, and they cast it with rock and roll singers.
Yeah.
Sandy Denny's on it. Steve Winwood and a whole bunch of Ringo.
Sandy Denny, she's the one who sang on the Battle of Evermore, right? On that Led Zeppelin record. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. She played Mom.
She's from Fairport Convention?
Yes. Was it for? Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Well, she was in Fotheringay also, I think, or something like that. Yeah. These English.
I recently did
or Lindisfarne.
I recently did a deep dive on Sandy. Don't take it the wrong way. And I really, really like her stuff. And again, like Fairport Convention, I think one of you two got me into them, but I'm like, why didn't I listen to this band years ago? And that's just where I'm going.
Why Richard Thompson?
Yeah.
Well, you didn't miss out because it's there. It exists. I mean, I didn't learn about Fairport Convention. I mean, I read about them in all these magazines that we used to read, but I never gave it a second thought.
They were always in the back pages. They had an album review, and but they would never have a cover story on. Convention.
No.
Kind of like for me when I was growing up, I always heard about this band XTC. They were always in the back of Circus magazine, or they'd be like in the middle, not the lead article. Who is this band? Television was another one that were always like deep cuts in the magazine. So you didn't listen to them, but it was all Kiss. They were the number one, big covers.
They were in the cool kids section.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of television, so remember that television marquee.
We keep
moon.
mentioning them on all these.
I'm big into them now.
Scott McLean mentioned television's popping up. It keeps Tom Verlaine.
Well, I've loved that record for a long time. Marquee Moon. Robert Mapplethorpe took that cover. The cover is Robert Mapplethorpe.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you remember
who is that?
Those wacky Mapplethorpe photos?
He was with Patti Smith. He was with Patti Smith. They were living together. In fact, he also did the Horses album cover. He took that photo too, Robert Mapplethorpe. Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah, he was Patti Smith's boyfriend for a time. They were living together, and until he realized he was gay.
Well, he was a controversial artist, Mark, in the 80s. He did some. David Letterman used to have a little skit. Those wacky Mapplethorpe photos.
Yeah.
One was a finger being inserted into a penis hole, I think.
Yeah. But he was a photographer, but he did take the television Marquee Moon and Patti Smith Horses, and probably a few others also.
He also brought a lot of awareness during the AIDS era. Not the AIDS era, but the original initial. I think he died of AIDS, didn't he?
I believe so. Yeah.
But but he did a lot of billboards. I think he was like into graffiti.
Okay.
Pretty edgy stuff.
Yeah.
See, I just learned something new. Music relish is educational. I'm learning.
It is education.
My head's expanding.
But
I think we need to get a grant. I think we should apply for a grant.
For a grant?
Yeah. And then buy musical gear with it with it.
Well,
and go on tour.
Speaking of album covers, remember all these wacky album covers? Like there's some sick album covers out there, man. You know, like really weird looking album covers, like that Orleans album cover, like
the Naked Men album.
But they're all shirtless. Like what is this all about? You know?
I think that was the vain 70s. That was the 70s were the chest hair decade, weren't they?
I guess so. Yeah.
The hirsute decade.
Yep. And
the funny one.
He still made Robin Williams look like a baby.
There was some weird Chicago album cover, and the record may have been called "Career Suicide" or something. I don't know.
Hot Streets. It was their disco album.
It's called Do Over.
Like there's some weird, like those weird Hall & Oates album covers. You know, like.
Now, do you have any examples?
Can I say one that disturbs? Well, not disturbs me, just stupid. Grand Funk. We're an American band. You flip it over. They're in the hay, totally naked, but they don't even look like they're into it. They're just like this. Hey, we're naked. Here we are. Okay. Yeah. It's like
there was something going on there. I think, Hall & Oates were trying to, like, that was an art director, and that wasn't their decision.
Right.
Yeah, they said
that glam, androgynous glam cover they did.
But they may have had to approve it, depending on, they may have had to approve it, right?
Yeah, I think very few done without saying some kind of approval.
Yeah.
But there was one where I think John Hall was naked, and maybe not Daryl, but John Hall was naked in some gatefold cover.
Weird, man.
In some of those Christian evangelical bands.
Oh yes,
Let Me Touch It, whatever it's called. Let Me Touch It.
There was one where, these are like probably from the '60s, where a bunch of guys in suits and records called "Let Me Touch Him." That shit's just weird, man. There's some weird album covers, like.
I mean. Granted, as pious as they may be, you think one of them, they weren't going like, okay, let me touch them.
Right. A lot of those Christian
you can touch them
records
tomorrow, but I'm going to touch them today.
Yeah.
And also, Prince's "Love Sexy." It's just a bad cover.
What is that? I'm not a Prince fan, so I'm not familiar with
this. Perry, picture me naked now, okay? He's like this. It's like this.
My eyes hurt. My eyes are hurting.
Can't be unseen. It burns.
So what is this Prince album cover? It's like him naked on the cover?
Yeah, I was doing the pose. He's like leaning back, like kind of angelic, kind of like he's splayed out on something.
Like that Billy Squier pose?
Well, we're not talking videos here. That's a whole other story.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He's Kevin Rowland from Dexy's Midnight Runner.
He's
in a semi. It's a semi-drag thing, but I don't think the reason he also didn't help himself. But they had the big hit, but he was saying things like David Bowie's nothing compared to us. He was doing these weird quotes, almost like Terrence Trent's Darby, where the album came out and he had some hit singles, but
that was a solo record.
But when you say that you're the most important artist in the world, or you're more important than someone who has been considered one of the most important artists in the world, you got to back it up.
Now, I also read.
That was Kevin Rowland, I believe.
Kevin Rowland. Now, I read that he played Glastonbury and was getting pelted with bottles and many other things.
Really?
Who?
The guy who was the lead singer of King Dexy's Midnight Runners.
Yeah.
He had a couple of solo records, and one of the solo records, he's on the cover. He's in lingerie. He's in ladies' lingerie, and and he played Glastonbury, and I guess it didn't go over very well. And
no,
oops.
And was it because of the album cover? I mean, I don't think it was an expression of his sexuality or anything. It's just for some reason out of nowhere you got to tart yourself up like that, and people are gonna. I mean, whatever that might be different today. Like I said, a lot of things would be different today.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I don't know if there was any explanation for it, any kind of real reason.
Right?
Okay, it's just I'm going to dress up like a bird or something. But
this was in the '80s. Yeah.
But I think whenever you make these pronouncements, those definitely pompous pronouncements. Same with Terrence Trent D'Arby. He's kind of trying to be like a bit of a flash in the pan in some ways.
Why? Who was? I've heard of Terrence.
Wishing Well's his big song.
He put out a great debut album, a really good debut album. And what did he say, Louis? It's the Beatles, right? Involved.
Something. I mean, more important, more vital, more relevant. I mean, it was just very hubristic.
Very cocksure.
Very cocksure. Yes,
it's too bad
that should have won the album titles of one of those things, Mark.
But today
Yeah,
with
exactly.
the social media, with the, you could, Instagram, TikTok, whatever else. Too bad that wasn't around.
You know what? You know what shocked me that it created, because we all grew up with seeing. It's funny, the old movies with Bob Hope where they would dress like women.
Yeah.
The Queen song, "I Want to Break Free." They were doing a comical tribute to an English soap opera. They all dressed like women. It ended up getting banned from MTV, whatever. But it was a major hit. They went to Brazil or Colombia, somewhere in South America, and Freddie didn't know. Don't dress like a woman in South America, and he got destroyed. He was having stuff thrown at him too.
Really?
Like, what's going on?
Take the stick out of your ass, man. Monty Python, kids in the hall.
intended.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, it was just, but you never know when you make these decisions to do things like, Kevin Rowland or Queen, like what it's going to sort of go back at you. And,
Yeah.
Speaking of album covers that are weird, did you ever see the album cover for Al Cooper's Act Like Nothing's Wrong?
No.
My sister used to have it. He superimposes his head on his girlfriend's body, who was a model.
That's
so
what
you
that
see
is.
You see the sexy Al Cooper and the legs folded just right. But on the back, she put her head on his body.
Oh,
So-
I didn't see the back cover. Can we go to the jazz world? Herbie Mann.
What kind
It's
of
just
cover
him
is
and his
that?
upper torso. He's a jazz flautist. But it's just like, I mean, what are you thinking? Like, what is it?
Yeah, who's the art director?
Or was this guy? I think it was the age of like male, macho, hairy chest. Like, this is what the ladies want.
Wow.
Before Nair.
And he came out with a great album called Push Push.
That's the one.
Yep. And
Push.
he's got, is that a whip in his hand? Something over his shoulder. No, it's a flute.
I saw one
Flute
album
in
cover
hand,
where it had like
It's a cat o' nine tails.
it had like 5 guys in lingerie and bras, and like what is this, man?
You know who lost a lot of fans when Ambrosia did that album where they went totally commercial? They sounded like the Doobie Brothers. They had that soul sound. I forgot the name of the album, but on the cover, one band members, they're all holding the one guy in the middle. They're all just holding him. And they went from being like a prog band to that, It's a great album, though.
No, that's when they went pop.
Yeah, good pop.
How much
Michael
I
McDonald
feel.
pop.
Well,
Yeah, that's the album,
Yeah. Now, I never knew they were a prog band until I saw someone. I was YouTubing prog. I saw Ambrosia. I'm like, why are they here? And I clicked onto it. I'm like, holy shit.
Nice, very nice, yeah.
Ambrosia.
It was some heavy stuff, but then they had those pop hits, kind of soft R&B pop hits.
Doobie, like the late
The
Doobie
biggest
Brothers.
part of me. Biggest part of me.
Don't sing that in prison. Huh?
That's one of those prison songs, right?
You're the biggest part of me.
Yeah, I can't unsee this Herbie Mann album because I'm a jazz fan. I just
terrible.
can't unsee it.
It's terrible.
I'm shutting down my Internet Explorer.
There's some freaky album covers, like Lou was
a
saying about these Christian singing groups. Like there's a bunch
And
of
these
sisters.
perverted titles. The titles are all sexual. They're deliberately sexual too. They're a bunch of weirdos.
It's pretty strange, man. Mark, were you telling me that?
Let him touch me.
Were you telling me that one of the
Soundbite
guys
that one? That's a soundbite.
who was the songwriter for Procol Harum just passed away too recently?
Yeah.
Like, very recently.
Yeah. So Keith Reed, who I didn't know this about Procol Harum. I always thought that who's the guy that played the piano and sang?
Gary Brooker.
I thought he wrote all the songs. Well, it turned out that they had kind of like a relationship, like a Bernie Taupin, Elton John thing, where this guy Keith Reed was a member of the band, but he didn't play on stage with them, didn't play an instrument. He just wrote their lyrics. So all their songs, including, Whiter Shade of Pale and Conquistador and every album. So, yeah, it's interesting that he toured with them and he would write his lyrics in the hotel rooms. And he explained, it's easier for me to write on the road, not be disturbed. I can see that.
Yeah.
Very interesting arrangement. But, yeah, he died. And I heard his name and I just looked back and he had a little bit of an interesting career because after Procol Harum broke up, he didn't know what to do. He was lost. He couldn't play guitar or whatever. So he ended up writing songs for people. And, he got around and stuff, but I just love that relationship that the band had a guy that they took along with them. He was on the payroll, obviously, but they recognized him as a member of the band,
Yeah.
So
he was a lyricist and they just kind of.
Yeah, he just a lyricist. In the 80s, he wrote a lot of pop songs for people. I'm just trying to find out here and can't find it. But, you know, if you actually, Whiter Shade of Pale is a great song. Whether, you know, it's just one of the great songs. But just that first verse. She said there is no reason, and the truth is plain to see. But I wandered through my playing cards, would not let her be. And then the great, one of 16 Vestal virgins who were leaving for the coast. And although my eyes were open, they might have just as well been closed. Just great lyrics.
John
really
Lennon loved that song. He had a record player in his Rolls Royce, and he used to play that
in his white suit too.
In his Rolls Royce, yeah.
And Robbie Robertson, in his most pompousness, accused Procol Harum of ripping off the band.
How?
Whoa!
He said if you listen like Chest Fever with that organ piano, like
really,
yeah. Contentious.
Maybe it's just the times, you know.
Well, it was a Rolling Stone interview from '69. The band's second record just came out, which was a instant classic. And they were asking him, Robbie Robertson, what he thought about, you know, the Beatles and all the contemporaries. And the Doors he thought were just bullshit. He liked the Beatles. He didn't like the McCartney, Maxwell Silverhammer stuff.
Yeah, well,
Procol Harum.
I don't think any other Beatle liked that song either.
No, Ringo didn't. But I think, you know, but he mentioned where he thought, you know, the whole organ thing in Procol Harum was kind of like heavily influenced by the band, but almost to the point of like, you know, we did that first. Or, you know.
Well, I think
Shade
you're
of Pale
right.
came out in 67 or 68.
I think 67.
Yeah. So that would have been before the band. Yeah.
Wait, Whiter Shade it was 67?
66 maybe even, right?
No.
Mark?
Maybe it was 67.
Yeah, it was a single. It wasn't on an album. They were doing singles. It could have been maybe 68, but when did the first band album come out?
68.
68.
All right. So
music from Big Pink. So he probably heard that, you know, not think it was a new song, which is even more pompous.
But it's a bit of a stretch to say that they ripped us off, you know.
1967 it came out.
No, so White Shade of Pale is a song by Gary Brooker and Matthew Fisher. Yeah, 1967.
Yeah. So how did they rip off the band?
That predates the band's first record by a year.
Yeah.
Well, Robbie was just being a pompous ass, I guess.
Yeah,
right?
sounds like it.
Let's go, Robbie.
In '69, you know, songs had traction too back then. So in '69, that song had been playing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Listen, we're running up on 2 hours. I just wanted to mention 2 other people that passed away in our extended hiatus. We lost Gary Rossington of Leonard Skinner.
Oh, yeah.
Been sick for a long time. Many people thought, you know, they didn't know he could survive as long as he did. But the last original member, and brings up a lot of talk about the plane crash and everything. But the big question is, will they continue without him? Will they actually have the audacity without any original members to continue? Right. I hope they don't.
I think somebody has the audacity, yeah.
Yeah.
As long as there's a Van Zandt.
If there's money to be made, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So now is Johnny Van Zandt still the patriarch of Leonard Skinner now?
Yeah. I heard that he wanted to retire, though. I heard that he wants to be done with it. So really? Who knows? Maybe they'll convince him to do one more tour as a tribute to Gary Rossington, make some more money. You know, there's always someone behind the scenes. Yeah. They are a family affair, that band. You know, I just 70s was Leonard Skinner. I never really got on board with the Skinner that came back.
You know, that's like touring the Allman Brothers without any Allman Brothers.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Right.
Now, whatever happened to Donnie Van Zandt that was in 38 Special?
All right. So when Leonard Skinner first reunited, it was I think it was Donnie. There's Ronnie, Donnie, and Johnny. So the first reformation was another Van Zandt. Who is the one now? It's Donnie now? Or?
The first, I don't think Donnie was much of a singer. I think Johnny Van Zandt, who's the youngest brother, he basically took Ronnie's place.
Right. He became the lead singer of Leonard Skinner. Yeah.
Right. And that's while Donnie Van Zandt was in 38 Special until they realized they really didn't need him.
Okay.
But
you're out, boy.
You're out. I don't care if you're a Van Zandt.
You're fired.
Get out. So I don't know. So I think the current Leonard Skinner, I think Johnny Van Zandt is still the patriarch.
Who was the other one, Mark, other than Gary Rossington?
Well, we lost an icon. He was old, but we lost Burt Bacharach.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Holy shit! I forgot.
We're gonna have to do.
We're gonna do a
him.
Burt Bacharach special in the near future. Yeah, yep.
Yeah. We were supposed to do that this week, but we kind of ran a little long on that. But I forgot we talked about that, trying to like dig a little deeper into what everything, or nearly everything he did.
But we're gonna do a special Spotify show about Burt Bacharach.
Yeah.
Because
you look at a bicycle wheel and look at the spokes. There's so many people involved with Burt Bacharach. You know.
That's right. Elvis Costello.
Yeah. Yeah.
So why are we doing a Spotify show now?
Well, we're going to do a Spotify show on Burt Bacharach so we can actually play the songs. Yeah.
Right. The YouTube police won't knock us off.
Correct. Yeah.
The YouTube police, they're coming your way. The YouTube police. Okay.
They're in
I like that Cheap Trick record. I like Dream Police. I thought that was a pretty good
song.
Yeah.
That's a great song.
Yeah.
I just want to know. I always wondered if they had ghostwriters because I bought through the years, I listened to Cheap Trick, and they have these fucking great songs, and then they have like four. Who
played one album
for me?
Huh? They like Diane Warren. They end up using like Holly Knight,
but in the 70s,
I think was their big song. I will be the flame.
Yeah,
I don't think they wrote that. I think that was.
Right. They had pressure from the record company probably because they started slumping. So let's get some, you know, like Aerosmith, let's get some professional writers in here because you guys have lost your edge, right?
And they may have been slumping, but in Robin Zander, they had a vocalist that did not lose 1% of his vocal ability.
Yeah.
He's an incredible singer.
Yeah, he
really
is
good.
Underrated, not praised enough.
Yeah,
like said,
and many bands through the years wanted him. Like so many bands were trying to get him.
Did they have a keyboard player, or was like Rick Nelson or one of the guys playing keyboard on record?
I think live, maybe now they have a backup, but back in the day it was just them, 4-piece, right?
Because Dream Police had a lot of keyboard on it, didn't it?
Yeah, well, they used keyboards at that point, but I don't know whether it was Rick Nielsen. They probably brought some people in, but at core they were 4-piece. And if they're still around now, I mean, Bunny Carlos and Robin Zander do not get along, so Bunny is not in the band anymore.
You told me that, yeah.
To me, that's I mean, the other guys are in there, but he was such a great rock and roll.
But he might still be in the corporation, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
but he made his statement for rock and roll. He was a real solid drummer, but the guy could play like the drums on Dream Police. The drums are great on that. That's like Live and Let Die almost. So
interesting, right? Now Perry was mentioning the keyboards on Dream Police. You're talking about a little Live and Let Die sound. Who produced that album?
Who
was it? George Martin.
Yep, he produced Dream Police.
George Martin.
That has a
big
Police say,
by Cheap Trick.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Did he produce
Zeitgeist moment?
Wow.
Yeah.
Did he produce Dog Police, the first MTV Song Contest winner? Dog Police. Police.
That video on MTV.
That was Giles' first project when he came of age.
I think I've shared that video with you guys.
Yes, you did. Yeah, you did.
It's pretty creative.
Why don't you send it to me? I'll put it up on our Facebook page.
And you said Roly Poly Fish Heads was Billy, the guy from Lost in Space?
That was Bill Mooney, yeah.
Bill Mooney.
Eat them up, yum, Roly Poly Fish Heads. The halcyon days of MTV when it was actually cutting edge.
When they had music videos. Yeah.
There was music, and they broke things. Bands broke there. Video Killed the Radio Star and Zebra. Right, Mark? Zebra. Ding.
I mean, Randy Jackson was on Eddie Trunk's show on Sirius XM last week. It was great to hear him on a national show.
MTV was very good to Zebra.
Speaking of Eddie Trunk, apparently Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley of Kiss were on the Howard Stern show, and apparently Howard Stern asked them how come they didn't play at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with the original two guys, and Paul Stanley says, well, these guys have been in the band for 20 years. It would be an insult to them. And Paul Stanley says, if that were the case, we'd have to call the group Piss. And apparently it really annoyed Ace Frehley to the point where it's like he's threatening now to go on the Eddie Trunk show and revealed many things about Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons that you would not believe, so.
Oh, God.
Maybe they just want to sell some books. Who knows, right?
Listen, Eddie Trunk
is planned.
Eddie Trunk, if anyone out there doesn't know who he is, he's been around since the 80s. I've followed him since he was on WDHA in Dover, New Jersey. He used to do the metal news on the metal show.
Yeah.
And I got to, I emailed him, and he's a good guy. A lot of people don't like him because he's opinionated. He has opinions on the music business. I largely agree. Like, this is bullshit that the record labels don't want us to have physical copies of our music anymore. They want everything downloadable. He's a believer in the CD format for the reason you want to own your music, read where it was recorded, right? Who did it? But I do applaud him is that he is one of those big Kiss Army guys. He grew up a huge Kiss fan, and they would go on a show when he was on, I forget what station in New York, but then he criticized them, and he learned that if you criticize Kiss, Gene Simmons, if he doesn't like what you say, he won't talk to you anymore.
Yeah,
so he stuck to his guns.
Thin skin. He's got a thin skin. Yeah.
Yeah. His thing was, if you're going to replace Ace and Peter Criss, give the new people new characters. Don't just face paint. Like when they originally would change, they would get different painted characters. Yeah. So he said it's all bullshit, and Gene didn't like that, and they refused to go on the show. He used to do every year Merry Kissmas, a Kiss special, and everything. He doesn't care. He stuck to his guns, and I applaud him for that. You know.
Yeah. Well,
so
Gene
Ace
Simmons
does go on the show. Yeah.
Gene Simmons is a schmuck, you know, because he can insult. He can say NWA does not belong in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That's okay. He can insult, you know, Ice Cube and everybody like that. But don't say anything to hurt Gene Simmons' feelings. You know,
Harry, did you just call me a schmuck? I can't do a Gene Simmons voice. I just can't.
I'll ruin you.
There's a guy that calls in to Howard Stern, does a perfect.
I'll have you ruined. I'm Gene Simmons. Now I'll have you ruined. I'm your doctor of love.
Yeah.
And again, I'm sure I've told you it's the reason I don't like Gene Simmons is when he went on Terry Gross Fresh Air on NPR, and she was asking him all these questions, and he said, well, you know, we only do this for the money. And she said, really?
Yeah.
He goes, yeah. And then he said, you show me every musician that you see playing. They don't like they're not playing because they like the music. They're playing because they want the money. And anyway, I was like, you know, screw you, because there's a lot of musicians that like to play, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
So.
Yeah.
Well, we're at 2 hours, guys.
And now what?
How you got?
Lou was about to pontificate on something.
Lou, we're going to pontificate about Lou.
I was saying just because Gene Simmons is a total mercenary whore doesn't mean every musician is. You know?
Exactly.
Right. Some people are in it musicians because they love playing music, right?
Right. And a lot of them are slagging their old bodies around because they have to still make that kind of money.
Yes.
Yeah.
And even if they may not love playing the song they're playing, the feedback from the crowd helps them. When Gene says that, you know, he doesn't even care if the crowd likes it. He doesn't care.
It's all about the numbers.
I'm getting paid, right?
It's the numbers, yeah.
I think that Paul Stanley is a bit different. He put out a solo. He put out a solo album last year. I bought it. It's all R&B. It's old soul classics. I bought it just because the guy put out an album. That's why. But you know, it's like, hey, and he sounds better singing that than Kiss. So at least that guy has a little musician in him left, you know.
Well, guys, I thought this was a great comeback episode. I hope you guys feel the same way.
Absolutely.
Nostrobia. Yes, I do too.
Absolutely. Well, and this is a late night TV show, so we're hawking the Blue Oyster Cult albums here.
All yours for just 5 payments of $10.99.
Hey, I signed a record contract, right? I got my first record for 99 cents. My first record. I signed a record deal.
There was
I thought you meant RCA Record Club.
My brother did Columbia House.
Oh, I did RCA, and if you picked the double album, it counted as 2.
Yep.
So you had to, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, and you can, Music Relish Podcast, you can catch us on Spotify.
All right. Going to catch you on Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podchaser, Overcast, YouTube, Amazon Music now. And if you want to see some clips of the songs we talk about, check out our Facebook page. Just look up Music Relish Podcast. And that slacker that runs it, he'll eventually put up stuff. So,
and we tackled a lot tonight, didn't we, Lou? We talked about prison songs. Well, we talked about a couple of prison things, right?
Yeah. The music's a little loud, so I'm not sure I'm hearing you correctly, but there we go.
Yep.
There we go. We got a little saucy.
Talked about there was a wacky episode. Lots of comedy.
Now, if you ever do get arrested, there are some songs you should not sing in prison.
And we were not offending anyone. We're just having.
No.
We're just.
We love you all.
Yeah.
This is an all-inclusive podcast.
Yeah.
Nobody hates anybody here. I hate those two guys, but that's a different story.
And
yeah, you guys are my friends.
And hello, of course, to Scott McLean and Jack Calabrese from Milk Crates and Turntables.
Yes. Where this Wednesday, Mark and I will be co-hosting with Scott McLean. And Mark is going through every Columbia album.
I don't know what he's
doing. He's hawking product.
He's got crazy eyes, by the way.
He's got Gordon eyes.
Loyster Cult does that.
He's got Jimmy Gordon eyes.
Wait, you had them with Marty Feldman eyes, right?
He's got Marty Feldman eyes.
I got to put him back in order because I hate to have a box set out of order.
Good percussion.
That's not too
This
inattentive,
music
is
in
it?
the background has good percussion, too.
Hey, you know what's another song you shouldn't sing in prison?
Well,
Dominance and Submission by Blue Oyster Cult.
I'm not saying a word, man. I'm
Career
staying
of
out
Evil.
there.
Sure, why not?
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Fare thee well.